Morning, everyone.
All right. You're here and you cannot be shy this morning. You must put on your cameras. It is mandated
time.
that everybody's camera is on during our sessions. That comes straight down from National. All cameras on, please. So fix your hair, brush your teeth, whatever you need to do, and show us your pretty faces. It's hard enough to do this without social cues. The facilitator is looking for, like, the audience response. That's what guides their tone, their ability to deliver, and to pick up on, hey, maybe I should have said that differently, and so on. So everybody's connecting. That's good. Get cameras on. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to waste any time as people are arriving. I'm going to keep sharing this link to the online quiz. Hopefully all of you had a chance to watch the video recorded lecture last night. There's one for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The Thursday one is the shortest one. It's about 25 minutes, but the others are about an hour to an hour and a half, somewhere in between there. Important to keep up with those things because we decided we didn't want to have Zoom fatigue and teach this whole heavy content during boot camp. We wanted you to be doing practical stuff and working through functions. So a bunch of you are here, so I'm going to get it started. You basically will click on the link, answer the questions. There'll be a timer for 15 minutes. We're going to pause at 9:15, so you're going to have to wrap it up quickly or wrap it up as Rosalie is starting her activity. And I'm going to have to repeat everything I said as people arrive. So here we go. For those of you that are here, hang on. Here's the link. Gary. Okay.
Amanda, can you see them coming in, or is that only Dimitri?
I can see them coming in. So yes, so I can let people
Okay. Are we mostly in? How many do we have in?
Yes, I think we have about 12. There's 2 that are.
Okay. And I think one person's going to do it at lunchtime. So Garrett's going to do it at lunchtime. Okay. All right. So moving into the next sort of activity for this morning. This is a bit of a team building exercise. We use it actually a lot in CPA sessions because I'm a chartered professional accountant. So when we are facilitating and getting people to know each other, this is just a fun exercise to get everybody kind of on the same page and thinking about who they are and what their teammates are doing and things like that. So the situation is dire. Okay, there's been a shipwreck. You're all stranded on a desert island, and each of you is allowed to choose one object to take to this island. So something that represents you, something that you enjoy. So you need to take a minute or two to think about what you would bring. And then each of you is going to introduce yourselves and describe the object you would bring and tell us why. So for example, if you love music, like to play music, maybe you'd bring a guitar. If you have a pet that you love, you might bring your pet. You might bring your favorite food. Okay, so take a minute or two, think about that object, then you're going to introduce yourselves, and then we're going to break you in teams, and you're going to have to figure out how you're going to survive. So that'll be part 2. But let's just worry about part 1 here for a minute. So I'll give you each 60 seconds, come up with something, write it down. Why would you bring that? And we'll do some brief introductions, and then we'll move on to part 2 in just a second. Amanda, what would you take if you were dessert? Okay. Saeed, do you have your item and what you would bring and why? Oh, Miriam does. Go ahead, Miriam. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I guess I'll take a toolbox.
Okay. Is it because you like tools, or you just think they might be helpful?
No, I need to survive.
I need to survive, and I can't trust my group members. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Miriam. Pan, what would you take?
I would bring food.
You would bring food. Okay. What
Yeah.
kind of food?
Like canned food, so I can survive like long time.
Somebody going to bring a can opener? You can't
I-
bring both things. You can only bring one thing.
Miriam has a toolbox.
Oh, from my toolbox.
Well, but you don't know if you're going to be in the same group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll see what happens. Okay. Pan's got canned food. All right. This is interesting. Chiang, what are you going to bring?
I have read somewhere I should bring a knife.
You're going to bring a knife. Okay.
That's probably
right.
the most useful tool,
Okay.
and it helped me to survive.
Okay. But remember, this is supposed to be something that reflects who you are. It's not about survival. It reflects who you are, but that's okay. So we'll see. We'll see where we go with this. Okay. Wakar, what are you going to bring?
I think I'll bring some books.
Books. So you like to read.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. So some books. Muhammad Ali. I think I didn't say that right, but anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it is right. I take my camera.
Oh, are you a photographer?
No, not professionally, but I like to take photos.
Oh, to take pictures. No, that's great.
Yeah, record the last times.
Yeah, okay. That's great. Okay. Who would like to go next? Okay, Garrett, go ahead.
Bring a fishing rod. I do like to fish, and
Hey,
you can catch food with that. Survive for a long time.
but you can't bring bait. You can only bring one thing. So you're gonna have to find your
can-
bait,
Yeah,
right?
you gotta find bait. Use the
You gotta
canned
find
food.
bait. But do you like fishing? Is that something you like doing?
Yeah, I fish.
Okay, so
My
that's
friend
one.
has a boat, and I go fishing sometimes.
Okay, perfect. All right, Fan.
I think I would bring a smart person that I can discuss with.
Love it. So are you saying you're not smart? I think you're very smart.
I think two people or two persons are better than one always.
Okay, you're going to be put in a
Friends.
group, so
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But okay, you're going to bring a smart person. All
Yeah.
right, interesting. Okay, Payman.
Yeah, I would say just bring my laptop. Just a lot of stuff you can do with it.
Where are you plugging that into? A palm tree?
Just as long as the battery lasts,
Okay,
at least you can just put it to some good use.
okay, and we better hope that shipwreck doesn't submerge that laptop, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's see what happens. Ashrataz?
Yeah, so mine one is kind of similar. I thought like I will bring my smartphone because then I can communicate with other people and they can bring something for me maybe. But yeah, it also matters how long the charge will there be for the phone.
And if there's cell service.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, I had another plan to bring some food as well, but yeah, another member told that
You
already.
only bring one thing. It's got to decide. Okay. All right. Who else just had their hand up? Somebody did. Oh, Mohammed, go ahead. And then is
Yeah,
there?
I will bring like a solar panel to supply electricity, and I will charge those Asha and Payman. If you
Has
want to
anybody ever
charge
been
your
to the interior of
devices.
BC? Has anybody just driven through BC?
Yep, I did.
Yep. What happens when you leave a town?
Zero cell service.
Zero cell service. That's in Canada. So just saying. So you're probably not going to have internet. And you're probably not going to have any data. Anyway. Okay. Who's next? Azair, I think was.
Yeah, I'll bring some speakers to play some music on.
Okay, music's good. So are you a music fan?
Kind of. Just
Kind
to
of.
kill my
Okay, what
time.
kind of music?
Mostly pop.
Mostly pop. Okay. All right. Who else? We missed anyone? Oh, Saeed. Sorry, go ahead.
Since it is a desert island, I will bring some water. So,
Oh, water's a good idea.
yeah, because
Okay.
yeah, for water you can just survive for longer days. So I can think of a way to just get out of the situation.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Did we miss anyone? Amanda's going to put you into 3 groups. And in your group, you have to find either a way to escape the island or how you're going to establish a permanent residence using the items you have brought. Okay. So your food or your speakers or your solar panel. And you are welcome to introduce more objects, but only what you can find on the desert island. Okay. So you've got 5 minutes to come up with either an escape plan or how you're going to establish a permanent residence. So we're going to break you into groups. Take five to 6 minutes to come up with a plan, and then you're going to come back, and each group's going to tell us if they're either how they're going to escape or how they're going to survive. Okay. So have fun with it, get to know each other, and let's see what you come up with.
I'll send you off to the breakout rooms. We'll see you in about 5.
Thanks, Amanda. So all right, everybody's coming back. You'll need to assign one person from your group to be your spokesperson. So decide who's going to speak on behalf of the group, and I want to hear what your escape plan is or how you're going to establish a permanent residence. So whose group wants to go first? I'll just pick somebody if nobody volunteers. Oh, you guys are being quiet now. Okay. Yuzair, your group, you're going to be the spokesperson. What did you come up with? How are you surviving? What are you doing?
We got 4 things: canned foods, books, some toolkit, and a music station or some radio or something. So we had a plan that we will go for surviving some long time, and we had some books of a car. So in the books, they are about how to survive for long. So we will read these books and get some knowledge, and we will survive with the canned food, and we will also use some toolkit of Mariam if we have to survive. And at the end, we will play some loud music or some loud uh, noise so that the people or our neighbors or someone passing by through some shapes can listen to us and come to help us.
Scare the
Okay.
wild animals away too.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's also a good thing. Exactly. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Yuzair. Who'd like to go next? We've got 2 more groups. Yeah, Garrett,
okay.
go ahead.
Okay, so our group, we had fortunately fishing rod and a knife and solar panels and camera. So with the knife we can easily forge things and get things for bait and use that for the fishing rod. So we're gonna stay on the island. So we can use that to self-sustain us for food, and using the knife, and we also have a solar panel and then a camera. We could possibly rig something up to constantly make fires, or we don't even need those to start a fire. Just use the knife and some materials from the island. So we can use that to, boil our water so we can have something to drink. So that's our plan is just to live off the island there. And then we use the solar panel to recharge the camera and take photos of our fish that we catch. They're on our profile. So
What profile?
well,
What
we get
profile do you
back.
have?
Well, eventually we get saved.
Oh, I see. So you want to document this so that you've got a book later on or something.
Yeah.
So okay. Okay, awesome. Who's our last group? Who wants to speak for the last group?
Yeah, I can go if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we had, I think, most of the challenges because we had 2 smart devices, and we thought like there will be no data connection or internet. So, and then we had water. That's good because if it's an island, the water might be salty. So the actual water can really help us, drinking water. And then Fanpeng had one more extra member. So we thought also to establish a settlement in the island. So we need to collect everything from the island. So maybe sharp branches from the trees so that we can catch some fish. And then we can also build a boat. So maybe we can take the boat to the island and try to see if there is any signal on our phone or on our laptop so that we can communicate somebody. But
Okay.
yeah, that was the plan.
Okay, awesome. Well, that is wonderful. So hopefully you got a chance to get to know each other a little bit better. That was just meant to kind of energize the day, get you going. Amanda is going to take over and do a bit of a training session on innovation within a Notion, and then we'll take a break after that. And then we're going to come back and jump into talking about customer segmentation, your customer hypothesis and your value proposition hypotheses. So this will be based on the content that you looked at yesterday evening in the videos and things like that. Apparently the results were pretty good, so it's great to see that you've all taken some time to look through the materials, so that's wonderful. Quick reminder, you're going to get tired of us telling you this, but your cameras have to be on, so it is a requirement. So put that camera on, and let's welcome in Amanda to do a little bit of this training piece, and then we'll get back together at 10:15 to start talking about customer segmentation. So Amanda, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rosalie. Let's give Rosalie a round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay, so for today, we are going to be going over Notion. I'm going to be showing you where to find everything within that database. I'm also going to show you how to find your team folders and access it through Notion as well. So what is the purpose of Notion? So we use Notion as the program knowledge base for all of our information related to the Lab2Market Prairies program. So it includes the scheduling, updates, reminders, access to team folders, program materials, etc. The expectations of use for Notion include the following. So in the chat, I will be putting the Notion link to the homepage. So what we're going to get you to do is you'll open it up in your browser, and then you're also going to save it and bookmark it. So that way you have quick access to this. So with that bookmark, we do expect that you are going to be checking Notion daily and pretty often for any updates or any information that you're needing for the program. So through Notion, like we've mentioned, you can also access your team folders, which I'll do a deeper dive into and show you what's in the team folders. You can also access the PDF presentations and the Zoom session recordings at the end of the day within each session page. So I'll go through the process of showing you where everything is. But first, I'll just give everybody about 10 seconds or so to be able to open up the link that's in the chat and just have it ready to go. Okay, and everybody's good to go? Okay, fantastic. So moving on, what I'm going to do is when you click on that link, it will bring you to the homepage, which looks like this. So for the homepage, what you want to do is, I'll just show a little bit of an orientation where everything is. So you'll see that there is the important pages section. We'll go deeper into each one of these specifics, and I'll show you where to find everything. If you scroll down a bit, we do have reminders. So I will be putting always the next scheduled session that we have with a link to the session page. Again, a reminder that any of the scheduled programming is held on this Zoom link, minus the social sessions and your weekly facilitator office hours, which will be determined by your facilitator, and they'll be in touch with you closer to the end of this week after Bootcamp. So we have the program schedule, the overview of both the pre-program and the core program. So the section that we're in right now is the pre-program. So as you see, yesterday we already completed. I just put a little check mark beside it. Today we're on day 2. So one of the ways to check out the session pages is you can go to the pre-program schedule and click on the schedule day right here. However, I'm going to show you another way that you can access it as we go through the different pages. So first we'll start off with the important pages. We just have about Lab2Market and the welcome package. So you have all received the welcome package earlier that I've emailed out, but if you wanted to access it again, you're welcome to access it through here. You can read a little bit more about Lab2Market on this page. If you wanted to download another copy of the welcome package, you'll just click on View Original, and you can download it right to your desktop right over here. Any questions so far from anyone? Nope. Okay, sounds good. We'll move on to the next section. So next, we have information about the tech stack and the software platforms that we're going to be using for this program. So as I've mentioned before, for any of the software platforms that we're using, just make sure to access it or create accounts using the Gmail address that we have on file for you. So the way I have this laid out is that the profiles just in each of the little boxes. To read more about the purpose and the expectations of use of each of the tech stack, you can click on the box. It'll open up where you can read more about that. So as you saw, this is where we started off when I started the presentation today. So you can do the same, for example, with Slack, Zoom, with Remo, Google Drive, and Innovation Within. For Slack, it'll also show you different links where you can download the apps to your desktop or to your phone if you wanted to. So when you're on this page and you want to go back to the home page, it'll be pretty simple where you can just click the back button, or you can click, there's the titles on the top, and you can just click on the previous title on the top. Okay, so now that we're back at the home page, Dimitri mentioned yesterday some of the reading materials that would be available, as well as one that is mandatory to read just before the start of Cohort. So you'll click into reading materials. From here, you can see the different options for the books that you're going to download. So the one that Dimitri mentioned is mandatory, is Talking to Humans. So you'll click on the first book, and you can see some information about it at the top. So again, I just put a little note to read before the start of the core program, which is January 30th, 2024. To download your free copy, you're just going to click on this link here for the free PDF download. So again, it'll open a separate window and you can just click download to save your PDF copy for you. Okay, moving on, we're going to look at the pre-program sessions pages. So right under reading materials, there's the Lab2Market Prairies pre-program bootcamp. You can click on that. This will show a few different options that you can go into. The first one is going to be the pre-program sessions. So if you click on that, it will outline all the different days for the pre-program that we have scheduled. So for example, if we look at yesterday's page, you'll click on whatever page you need to see. At the top, it'll tell you the facilitators. Yesterday, with Dimitri and I being involved as well, we were listed there. And at the end of each day, once the Zoom session recording and the PDF presentations are available, I will link them to each of the Notion session pages just right here. So to watch the Zoom session recording, click that one there. It'll open up a separate tab or window where you can watch. For the download PDF presentations, same thing as the other options. So it'll have a short description of the day. Again, the schedule overview. Then at the bottom, it'll tell you what you need to do for homework that night. So again, yesterday night, we had you watch the Assessing Risk Part A video. Again, that will just get you prepared for the quiz in the morning, as well as for the content that's going to be covered that day. If you want to go to the next bootcamp session page, I did link it at the bottom here. So you just can click on that, and it'll bring you to the next day. So you can see the facilitator today is Rosalie. We are going to have a guest speaker, James O'Connor, teach us about innovation within and how to use it and make the most of it for our customer discovery process. So again, that's the way that you can navigate and look at each of the session pages. You'll see again the homework that we have assigned for tonight, and then you can view the next bootcamp day programming by clicking on the link below. Do we have any questions at all about how to navigate and look for the different session pages? Nope. Okay, fantastic. We'll move on to the next one. So once we're back on the homepage here, like I've mentioned, you can click on the different days specifically just right on the program schedule to bring you to the session page, or you can go the route of going to the pre-program bootcamp. So one other thing, if there's two other things that you can look at if you'd like to explore, we have the Cohort 5 Bootcamp delivery team. So I've made profiles just for a team here that you're welcome to click and read into. So we'll have a bit of a bio, some of the contact information, etc. So feel free to look into that later on. And then down the road, if we are going to be having any bootcamp session resources that we want to share with you, I'll have it and posted on this specific page down here. So I'll send reminders if that's the case and if that's what we're going to be doing in order to access specific materials that you're needing. So we have our core program section laid out very similarly, where we have the LTEM core program sessions. Same thing, you click on that, you click on whatever specific session you want to look into. It'll be laid out with the title, again, the facilitators, any of the mentors that are showing up. And same thing, you can download the presentations and watch the Zoom session recordings. And then same thing, we are going to have our Cohort 5 delivery team for core. Information just right below here. One other page that's important to note is going to be our Lab2 Prairies mentor portal. So we'll do a bit of a deeper dive down the road, but this will be important not only just to be able to prepare for any of the mentor Q&A sessions that we do have, but it is also mandatory to book a minimum of 3 15 one-on-one mentor meetings throughout the core program. So you have up until March 26th to book 3. The purpose of it is just to gain some more knowledge, experience, get some advice, or it can also be used as a stakeholder interview, depending on the nature of what you're looking to gain or looking to learn from each of the mentors. So if you read through the page, you'll see how you can set up a one-on-one mentor meeting with them. So you can read through this after the class and after the workshop today. To learn more specifically about a mentor, you're going to click on their profile. So again, you're going to see a lot of information about them, as well as a bio at the bottom. And I've also included 5 example questions that you can ask the mentors for a one-on-one meeting. So you don't need to stick with these specific questions at all. It just gives you an example of things that you can ask. If there's anything else that you are, really curious about, or you feel you can really benefit from after reading their profiles, feel free to come up with whatever questions work best for you. Do we have any questions about the mentor portal or anything we've seen here? All good? Okay, let's move on back here. Okay, so what I'm going to show you next is how to access your team folders. So this is going to be very important in the program. So when we're on the Notion homepage, what you're going to do, again, under the important pages, is you're going to click on Cohort 5 Team Folders. Okay, once you're in here, it's pretty simple where you can see that it's listed from Team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find just a little list where I can list and show which team number you are. And then from there, you'll be able to click on that specific folder. And then from there, you can actually access it as long as you're logged into the Gmail address. Let's go here. We're going to go with team numbers. And I'm going to drop this one just in the chat for you. Okay, so now you can see which team number you've been assigned to. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the Notion page, the home page, click on the Team 5 folders, the Cohort 5 team folders, then click into your specific team folder. So I'll give you a minute to do that. So with the specific folder too, when you open it up, again, just make sure to bookmark this link. It will be somewhere that you're going to be visiting very regularly. Okay, and is anybody having any issues getting into theirs at all? We're all good. Okay, perfect. So I'll move on to show you an example of what it looks like in each of the team folders. So we're going to use team folder 1 as an example. So just to keep in mind that you will only be able to access your own team folder and you won't be able to view anybody else's team folder there. So in the team folders, we have it laid out like this. So the first thing that we have, and we'll get you to fill out tonight, so you'll download this, fill it out and upload, is the photo, video, and consent waiver form for the University of Manitoba. So you'll read through it, make sure you put your name in here, and then down at this section, you're going to print your name, add your digital signature, and date it, and re-upload it to this folder, please. The second one here is very important for Bootcamp. So Rosalie is going to be going over some activities, and we will have some assigned homework tonight. So you will need to access your team folders and make sure that you have access to your Bootcamp workbook as well. So the Bootcamp workbook, you'll double click on that. And this will open up an online workbook that you can just work on right online if you'd like to. And she will tell you, as well as the other facilitators will tell you, what specific activity you'll be working on for homework. She'll give you more granular instructions for that. So later on during the week, we will be going over the CRM as well as the EL weekly checklist. Dimitri will be touching base on that on Friday, as well as kind of more information about the Scrum presentation templates. But after the workshop today, feel free to take a look within your team folders just to familiarize yourself where everything is. Okay. And did we have any questions at all about the accessing team folders, or was anybody having any issues getting into theirs?
Yes, Amanda. Sorry. Where do we go for the assignment on the folder?
In order to get your own folder, you mean?
No, I mean like you just showed an assignment page, like where you want to see the assignment, right?
Are you talking about for Notion, or are you talking about the workbook?
I guess he mentioned the video and photo agreement.
Oh, this here. Okay. So yes, so what you do is you're going to go to Notion. I'll start over again from the top. So in the chat, there is the Notion link where it takes you to the homepage. So from here, what you do to access your team folder is you're going to click on under important pages, Cohort 5 team folders. And then in the chat, I also put which team you've been assigned to. So if you look in the chat, you'll see the image. And so Mohammed, it looks like you're a team 9. So if you just click on the team 9 folder, then you should be able to access that. And that's okay?
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I think that's mostly just to show you, like, again, orientation-wise, just where things are generally. Feel free after the workshop to explore Notion more, as well as explore your team folders and just get more familiar and comfortable where things are. But Dimitri, is there anything else you wanted to add at all in terms of Notion or with the team folders?
So I think a lot of this making your life a lot easier is about building some habits and rituals for self-management. And one of those, I think, best practices that we always kind of tell people, little things actually make your life easier. For example, everything that we talked about today, if it's your folder, if it's your CRM, if it's your checklist, I would start bookmarking those things right in your browser in a folder that's called Lab2Market. And so that way, when you go to your Lab2Market folder under your bookmarks, everything you need is just right at your fingertips. And that really kind of just makes it more efficient. And on days when you have head fog or you've had a hard, long day, it's just a lot easier to have things be efficient and at your fingertips. So do the little things that you need to do to manage yourself and your time and your actions effectively. We've done a lot of the heavy lifting, and we're going to talk about some tools for self-management that we incorporated. This is probably why we have one of the better track records for outcomes and for our students, because we make sure that, that we kind of cover a lot of bases. We've done a lot of thinking and working and designing over 5 cohorts, take advantage of all the good tools that we put together for you, and you will be on track. It's like we say, a marathon. It's not a sprint. I don't want anybody picking 1 or 2 days of the week and then just doing all the work on those days. Move the needle a little bit every day, and you'll find that things get done. And you get to the other end and you have these amazing results and you're saying, wow, and I had a great time doing it too. So that's my advice.
Thank you so much, Dimitri. And anything else to add, Rosalie?
No, I think that's great. I mean, just having worked with the cohort for, that is, you know, those tools that Amanda showed you, that's where everything lives. So, you know, take some time today. We are going to jump into doing some customer hypotheses and things like that. Those, you'll have a little bit of homework. Make sure you do it this afternoon or later this evening. I'll go in and take a bit of a look at it later on tonight, maybe around 8 o'clock. So if you can have something in there, that would be great. And we just want to, provide you with that ongoing feedback so that you can be successful. If in my experience is limited, it's certainly not as vast as Amanda's or Dimitri's, but if you leave things till the last minute, and we see this all the time, so midway through core, you will be in a panic and it will not be a good experience for you. So you really want to enjoy this ride, and you really definitely want to learn as much as you can from it as well.
And there's a method to our madness always. So basically, when you're working on these workbook assignments, this is another point of contact, because your first office hours, and maybe for a few office hours in the beginning, your facilitator will go back and reference the workbook and say, okay, let's flesh this out a little more. Let's get your scripts ready. Let's get your questions ready. Let's improve this part. So that all those things that you need to do your work are going to be at an optimal level. And because you're doing these right on Google Drive, the instructor can look under the hood at any point and offer feedback asynchronously. It's all about efficiency and being able to have lots of good points of contact between you and and your facilitator, your mentors, your coaches, etc. So,
yeah, perfect. So Amanda, why don't we, if you're done, why don't we just start the 15-minute break now, and then we'll come back a bit early, and that, then we can have a little bit more time in some of our breakout groups and stuff like that.
That sounds great. But first, I'm just going to check, are there any questions from any of the ELs at all? Everybody was able to access everything okay? Okay, fantastic. If you're at any point stuck or needing any help with any of the software, we do have the software support channel within Slack. Feel free to reach out anytime you have a question. If you have a question, most likely other people have the question about that as well. So it does benefit everybody if you post it within the software support channel. And that way everybody can see the answers. If you aren't comfortable doing that, feel free to send me a direct message in Slack. Okay, so we'll send you off on a break. Thank you very much, everybody. So we're just going to do the 15 minutes still, Rosalie, or do
I think that's fine. Yeah, I think that's great. And then we'll come back and we'll just jump into our content. And I am all about making sure we are done by noon so that you guys can all take a good long hour lunch and relax.
Fantastic. So we'll put on the timer for you and we'll be back in 15 minutes. Enjoy.
Perfect. Welcome back after the break, everybody. So we're going to move forward. We're going to start talking about customer segmentation. I think this is important when you start thinking about your technology, your product, your service that you are trying to share with the world. And really, we're moving into a bit of a different mindset. We're researchers, we've been in the lab, and now we're really having to kind of sell what it is that we're creating and determine whether or not there's a market for it. So I actually have a sales background way back. One of my first jobs was in sales. And one of the hardest things for me was trying to understand who my customer was and what my customer needed and wanted. Not what I wanted to sell them, not what I thought they needed and wanted, but to really understand what made them motivated and what made them interested in the products or service that I had to offer. So this is really that first sort of starting point where we're going to start thinking about who our customer might be in relation to what it is that we have to offer. So I'm just going to share screen here, and we're going to do some work together today. So this is going to be interactive, which is always more fun. And we are going to start talking about who's the customer. How do we create a customer profile? And this is not a one and done. This is going to be an evolution. So everything you do during core, that 8 weeks, those 100 people that you interview, those 1,000 people that you contact. All of that is going to be about trying to understand, refine, and revise these customer profiles. And so as we go through things today, please ask lots of questions. You'll have an opportunity to think about your own research and who your own customer might be. And that will be part of the homework for this evening. So let's start by kind of maybe using an easy example to kind of wrap our brain around this. So who's the customer? So let's think about a product. So we've got these headphones. And, you know, some of us may use headphones. So maybe we're a customer, maybe we're not. But we can probably think about who the customer for these products might be, or this product might be. So if we think about that, we should start thinking about how we would describe that customer. Why does that customer want this product? Who is that customer? How old are they? What do they do? What are some of their hobbies? What are some of their habits? Why might they use this product? What would be the benefit of that product? So you're going to take a couple of minutes here, and you're going to provide me with a brief description of this customer. So include a few characteristics. So again, age, hobbies, habits, maybe, activities that they engage in. And what I want you to do is take 2 to 3 minutes, come up with 1 to 2 sentences about who the user of this product would be, what they look like, what motivates them. And I want you to type it into the chat. And we're going to talk about this because this is really what you're going to start doing, and you're going to apply this to your own research. So it's really important to start thinking about customers in terms of who they are, what they do. And I always like to think about customer segmentation from the who, what, where, why, when. Who are they? What do they do? What motivates them? Why do they do the things that they do? When do they do those things? And how do they do those things? So start thinking about the customer for those headphones. Give you a couple of minutes, and then we're going to have you type that into the chat, and then we're going to talk about this in a little more detail. So pull out a pen and paper or pencil and paper if that helps. Jot down a couple of ideas, get your thoughts collected, then type it into the chat, and then we will discuss this together as a group. Okay, so again, great starting point, but travel a lot, like travel on plane. Are they driving, or how are they traveling? What motivates them? So again, these are high level ways to start thinking about it, but we're going to encourage you to kind of go deeper, right? Okay, so people who go to the gym. So students listening to videos, studying videos during the study. So I guess during study period, someone who's composing music. So they're making sure that they get rid of all the background noise. Oh, Wakar, I like this. So hang on. Then now they're all coming in fast and furious. This is awesome. So 15 to 45, I like that. You've got some demographic information in there. These people could be students, or they could be working. They can be traveling too. They could be going for a workout. Okay, so that one almost becomes a little bit too broad because, and it's great in the sense that you're starting to identify all these options, but we might have a couple of different segments in there. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Music enthusiasts, high bass compared to the earphones, so they'll mostly be doing gym or physical activity. People who listen to music, frequently musicians, whose job is associated with chamber or with music is a potential customer. Since this is a wireless headphone, I like that you picked up on that characteristic. People who cannot go for a wired headphone because they're all customers of this product. Oh, Dimitri, sound engineers who have to work in a busy office, people with ears. Telecom customer services. Okay, this is great. Does anybody not weigh in? Anybody else have anything else they want to share here? Oh, customers are people who want focused sound, more defined music experiencing. Okay, perfect. Anybody have anything else, or did these chat pieces kind of inspire you to maybe think about things a little bit differently? So what's one observation you have from some of these things? Oh, gamers. Okay. So now we're starting to see some what I would call segmentation. So you guys have given us these broad overview of people that could be users of these headphones. But if you think about it, how do you, if you are the manufacturer of those headphones or the seller of those headphones, how do you get to your customer? If you say, oh, it's people who want to block out background noise, how do you find those people, right? So the next kind of step after we recognize what I would call this total addressable market, so this TAM, is to start thinking about specific segments within that sort of total addressable market. So how do we find specific people? How do we find specific groups? And we can start thinking about that through the use of what we would call segmentation. Okay, so let's continue to refine this market and think about this market from now, the perspective of the various segments that sit within that market. So I'm going to go back to this screen here for just a second. I've got too many screens open. There we go. Okay, so now you can see we've introduced that business model canvas here, and we're really talking about that section there that is related to our customers. And this is really the place, these customer relationships is really the place you're going to be living in, eating in, and breathing in for the next, several months as we start doing these customer interviews. So when we start thinking about segmentation, what we're really talking about is this idea of dividing customers into subgroups. Okay, so headphones are really, they're targeted to these audio listeners. This is our total addressable market. But you guys have already started coming up with some segments. And I saw gamers up there, and I would suggest that's probably a segment within here. So take a couple of minutes here. And start addressing or identifying for each of you 3 different segments, 3 different people that might use those headphones. And I think that we had enough in that chat for you to be able to do this. So who are 3 specific groups of users in this total addressable market, this TAM, that might use this product? And then you don't need to put it in the chat. We're just going to open it up to discussion and see what you guys come up with, because we're going to take this same approach and we're going to start applying it to your own research and to your own product. Okay, so take a couple of minutes and do this, and then let's see what everyone comes up with. Okay, Hashir. So students is his first one, working professionals. Okay. Anyone else? We can have a discussion. It doesn't have to all be typed in. We're a pretty small group.
Also, I'm thinking, well, I just looked it up. This is actually a noise canceling headphone, a Sony noise canceling headphone. I have seen this same headphone being used by, my buddy has one, university student, always focused on his own work and trying to insulate himself from the crowd.
Okay.
And second, my supervisor has not exactly the same one, but similar, and very similar situation, professionals. And lastly, I've seen a lot of people use the same headphones on the airplane when they travel to prevent that aircraft noise.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Okay, anyone else? I see there's a bunch in the chat too. That's great. If you don't want to share using your audio, your voice, that's fine. We can certainly type it in. There's some great things in the chat. Anybody else want to share? Yeah, go ahead, Wakir.
I think those students who are enrolled in online classes, so they will need headphones. And another one is people who listen to music and who use online streaming like Netflix and these things. And the third one might be like the one was discussed, nice cancellation, to just have focus on something.
I love the online classes because I've taught, particularly during the pandemic, online classes, and it's tough, right? Because people are at home, there's lots of noise. So there's some really good segmentation there. Mohammed, go ahead.
For the 3, public transportation users, gym goers, but also there's like I have seen a lot of people who works late, like a late shift. And because it's too quiet, too boring, they use like the headphone most of the time.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay. So you guys have come up with some, oh yeah, Garrett, go ahead. Absolutely. Oh, are you on mute, Garrett? Oh, can't hear you.
No.
There you go. Perfect. Hear you now.
Okay. I was thinking someone most of everyone said the other ones that I had, but the other one was sound designers. Someone, you know, who uses them for composing music or developing sound for games or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So these are great. So this is how, you know, what we're doing here really is just getting you to start thinking about how to think about your own research, right? So if we think about, you know, and you guys have come up with some of these sound engineers, music industry professionals, gamers, work from home professionals. I'd mentioned my father who is blind, who listens to audiobooks. So people who maybe have vision impairments that use audio for other things. Like, so there are a number of different markets. So what we're going to do is we're going to break you into groups of 3 or 4. So Amanda's working her magic behind the scenes. We're going to give you 12 minutes. And we want you to repeat this exercise for your solution and share it with your group. So take a couple of minutes, think about your own research, the product or the service that you are creating, and think about who your customer is. And maybe try and come up with 2 to 3 segments of your customer as well. So really thinking about, you know, who your customer is, what they want, what they need to get the job done. Okay. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to come back and talk about that as a group. So Amanda, you, I think, are going to push them into their groups. Everybody clear on what you need to do? You know, repeat this exercise with your own technology, share it with your group, and then we're going to come back and talk about this. And I'm sorry?
Can you repeat it like it is to be like the headphones are to be discussed and we can
No, this is your product. So you're going to do that. We're going to repeat the exercise with your research and the product or service that you're creating. You want to share with your group, and you the purpose here is to get some feedback from our group, because sometimes what happens is we tend to have tunnel vision. We're so excited about our research and we're so excited about what we believe it can do that we forget that it's not about what we think. It's about what the end user, the consumer, the potential consumer thinks. So get some feedback from your group. So take a couple of minutes, think about your product, your service related to your research, and then share with your group and get some feedback from those in your group. So groups of 3 or 4, we'll give you 12 minutes to do that. Then we'll come back, we'll do a bit of a debrief.
And remember this, it's early in the game. So these are guesses. These are hypotheses. They're things that you're going to test. As you interview, you're going to iterate and choose better segments. Who are the most important people early in the game that you want to talk to first and learn from? And it is a choice, because of this, as you can see, there's a big potential for who the segments could be, but you don't want to talk to everybody. You have to be a little selective at the beginning. So start here. This is your guesswork right now.
Yep. And you're going to narrow it down. That's going to be part of the refinement process over the next 8 weeks. Okay. Perfect.
We'll send you off to the rooms. We'll see you in 12 minutes. Have fun.
Perfect. Thank you, Amanda. Expect them just yet somehow. All right. So hopefully that was a good experience. I hope that you've gotten some insights and feedback from your group members. We're going to park that information. We're going to come back to it after the break. But what I do want to talk about right now is sort of this idea of what this full segmentation looks like. So we're really having you go and do what we would call primary research. So when we think about market research, it kind of falls into 2 categories. There's primary research, where we are going and talking to individuals, we're gathering information firsthand, and then there's secondary information. And we won't spend a lot of time talking about that right now. You'll be introduced to it a little bit later. But the idea of this combination of primary and secondary information is it allows you to build a full profile. So I'll just share with you a quick example of what a full profile of a market segment might look like. So let me just share a screen here with you again. So here's a really good real life example where we've got 5 segments. It's the fashion industry. And you can see that we've categorized our customers into these segments. So we've got value seekers, we've got connoisseurs, bland babes, fashionistas, as well as our young singles. And we've also assigned percentages. So through our research, we've determined what percentage actually fits in each category. And then we have a pretty good specific descriptor of each category. So if we look at those connoisseurs, you know, older, you might actually want to define what older means. Mostly married, about half work full time. They're the highest spenders, so you know that they're spending the most dollars. They're, you know, targeting European brands in terms of fashion. They're energetic, positive, optimistic, and seasoned fashion nuts. And what that helps the, you know, the seller of this type of fashion, or people working within this industry, do is really target those connoisseurs and help, you know, find them out there in that wide world, and target them with whatever initiatives they're going to do in terms of marketing and as well as advertising. So what you're going to be doing over this next 8 weeks is really starting to, as Dimitri said, create this hypothesis around who you think your customer is. And now we're going to test it. So if you think, yeah, there's a connoisseur out there, for example, in this particular real world example, and you've defined that as your customer, you're going to want to go out there, you're going to want to talk to them, and you want to get a real good insight into what it is that motivates them to do what they do, and whether or not they see value in the product or the service or the technology that you're creating. So within that, then, we want to start thinking about something called customer profiles. So, and we want to create a customer persona. I think this is a more artistic view of a customer profile, but it's really kind of this fictional archetype. So you can kind of think of this as like avatars. So who is my customer? What motivates them? You know, why do they buy? How do I get to them? How do I target them? And we're going to use data and research to shape and evolve these personas. So now, rather than thinking about research as in the lab, we're going to shift the way we think about things, and we're going to think about this with human subjects, and we're going to talk to these people. We're going to find out everything we can about them in terms of likes, dislikes, values, things like that. Yes, go ahead, Shenyang.
The previous slide, I saw there was a percentage under each of the category.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
is the percentage come from the interview, or like how
No.
do you, like,
well,
where
you
do you
could
define that
certainly,
percentage?
Yeah, well, because I mean, if you think about a market, think about fashion as a market. There's 2 components. There's that primary research that I was talking about. So you can certainly apply, and we're going to teach you how to apply analytics to that percentage of your interviews. So you'll get a sense of, okay, 20% say that they are connoisseurs or fashionistas. So you can certainly apply a percentage. You can go on and do a lot of secondary research as well that talks about the size of the market, and you can also do analysis on that data as well. So it is about analyzing your data. Don't get hung up on that right now. We are so far away from that. You've got to start actually getting data. Right now, you have no data. So those interviews start to form the basis of the data that you're collecting. And then we will definitely spend some time in core towards the end of the core program showing you how to start doing some data analysis and pulling together some of that information as well. Okay, so we need the data. Right now we have no data. So right now we're in data collection mode, and then we will apply data analytics to that data as we go along. Does that answer your question? Okay, perfect. Okay, so these customer personas, be detailed, be specific, create names, create characters, create people. It will help you to think deeply about who you are designing your product or your service for. So here's a couple of examples. So back to our headphones, right? So we said, okay, our total addressable market, our TAM, anyone that listens to audio. Okay. And we said we have 3 segments. We've got professionals that work from home. We've got gamers. We've got sound engineers, music industry professionals. Well, we can take that a step farther. Let's think about our work at home professionals. What do they look like? Who are they? And sometimes assigning a name to them is kind of fun, and it helps you sort of humanize this experience. So persona 1, so we've got 3 different individuals. So we think that there's sort of 3 personas here. And let me just add those. So we've got Bill. He's the programmer. He works at home alone. He needs to focus. And he's using those audio headphones to help him create that. We've got Matt. He's a freelancer. He runs workshops, so he's presenting. He also, you know, again, working from home, but there's also kids. So there's background noise. So he wants to cancel out that noise and stay focused on those seminars that he's presenting. And then we've got Jane. She's an executive, and she's in and out of virtual meetings all day. So it helps you humanize that interaction. It helps you really start to think about, you know, these archetypes, or again, if you want to think about them almost like avatars, and they may represent these customer segments. I use this a lot. I teach entrepreneurship at the University of Winnipeg. I encourage always my students to create a customer persona as part of their market research and their marketing plan, because it helps them then determine how they're going to get to that customer and how to target those customers. If you think about this from your research perspective, you're going to be targeting 1,000 people. So we're going to talk about later on this week how to create a customer database, a database of people to talk to, so this CRM. So you want to think about and start creating these customer personas, because it will help you start to target who you are going to go after. So if you are going to use LinkedIn, for example, as your first source of information and potential customer interviews, you can actually, there's fields inside of LinkedIn that allows you to do searches. So the more refined you are in terms of who you want to talk to, the better able you're going to be able to find those people. If you can target them specifically, then you can also get to them more easily. What you may find is you're wrong. I've done this customer persona. I thought this was my customer. It's not my customer. So, and then this allows you to quickly pivot, refine that customer persona and that customer hypothesis, and shift your way of thinking. Okay, so really important to do this. You're not going to be right the first time. I think, you know, of the 7 or 8 EL groups that I worked with in the fall, at least 3 of them did a complete wholesale shift in terms of who they thought their target customer was. And that's okay. That's why we're doing this. This is that opportunity for you to start thinking about this, refining this, and then finding information that either supports and validates your hypothesis or invalidates it and allows you to pivot. Okay, so think about your interviewee. So let's say we've got Larry Stone. And he's a recommender. He might be the person that can connect us to other people that may be our direct customers. So what industry is he in? Well, he's in food sales. What market? So mid-sized supermarket. So we're getting some pretty specific information here about him. He works for Family Foods. That's his organization. He's with the marketing department. His title is marketing manager. And are they the one with the problem? So is this, you know, the problem that you're going to, or you're trying to solve through your research? So yes, that is the person. And who else? So general manager and the produce department may also have this problem. So what you want to do is, when you are starting your interviews, is you want to collect as much information about these individuals as possible, because this is also going to help you to be able to make those pivots to have complete information. And later on, if you decide you are going to try and launch or commercialize your technology, you also have a really complete database with really great information of all of the people that you've talked to. So you want to start using something called design thinking tools to help describe these individuals that you interview more deeply. So, you know, we're a little bit of a shift because I think as scientists, many of us, you know, have a very specific process that we work through. Now, when we're dealing with human subjects, we need to think about this a little bit differently. And we want to think about this from sort of this design thinking perspective. So we'll talk more about design thinking this after the break as well. In your workbooks, you do have this framework. So green boxes, this is your direct customer segment that you're targeting. Your blue boxes, this is anybody who's peripherally relevant or associated with your customer segment. So these could be people that are influencers, they could be industry professionals that maybe aren't your direct customer, but could provide you insights or guidance. And then the purple boxes are also various personas. You can label these. So are they fans? Are they people that support what you do, but maybe they wouldn't buy what you are providing? They could be skeptics. Skeptics are good to talk to as well, because skeptics, if you can convince a skeptic and get them to believe in what you're doing, that's a pretty big indicator of or validating factor. But it's also, they are the ones that will put forward the challenges and get you to think about things differently. And then who do you need most clear or most on your side? So this particular workbox here, this worksheet, you should be prepared to discuss this in your first set of office hours. So you will have your first set of office hours the week before course starts. And this will be an opportunity for you to start thinking about these things. You'll hopefully have done that initial 10 to 15 interviews. And then you get an opportunity to talk about this and chat with your facilitator during those first set of office hours. Okay, so you really want to be thinking about your hypothesis, describing the problem you believe your technology or research can solve for the customer, and then starting to build out this framework in terms of who that customer is, who the influencers in that industry are, and then who are those fans and skeptics within that industry as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. Oh, did I have some closing notes? Sorry. I don't actually have any closing notes. It's just a slide. So I'm going to stop right there. It is 11 o'clock. Any questions? We're going to continue on. We're going to start talking about how to design that customer hypothesis and your value proposition hypothesis after the break. But before we do that, does anybody have any questions right now? And we'll certainly talk about design thinking as well. Okay. Take 15 minutes, grab a coffee, tea, water, take a comfort break, stretch your legs, and then we'll come back in 15 minutes and we will continue on. Thanks, everybody. Okay, I'll be back shortly.
Hey, Dimitri.
All refreshed. All right, so last piece for today is taking a look at customer segments and value propositions. So let me just screen share with you. Again, please ask questions as we go along. And where is this slide deck? There we are. Okay, perfect. So customer segments. So we're going to use some of that data or that information that you put together in the earlier session about your own research, your own products, your own services as we go through this section. So we'll do that in just a minute. But when we're talking about customer segment hypothesis or value proposition hypothesis, these are the assumptions or the suppositions that you've made so far. And appreciating that many of you have been in the lab, you haven't, gotten out that front door. And the big challenge over the next 2 to 3 months is, to get out the door, to talk to people, And talking to people can be a bit intimidating, and it can be a bit nerve-wracking. I can promise you it gets better with practice. So my first experience with presenting was a colossal disaster that left me in tears. So the fact that I actually teach and facilitate for a living is actually very odd. But it's because you just have to practice. You kind of have to go, oh, no, this isn't great. This is not really my comfort zone, but I need to challenge myself to get better and get out the door. And we're here to support you with that. So this is our starting point. So best guess, that's what it is right now. And we're going to test it. And we're going to test it rigorously, which with each and every one of those interviews and those conversations that we have with people that are outside of that lab environment that we're currently in. So I mentioned this thing called design thinking a little bit earlier. So design thinking is really what we're going to apply and what we're going to use to test our hypotheses. So you want to begin by really starting to understand who your customer is, who is interested in this research. How does it help them? What need is it filling? What problem is it solving? And the way that we do that is by really empathizing with those human subjects that we're talking to, those potential customers, and understanding what they are telling us, and really, listening to them, massaging and that information, defining it, being able to articulate that in a way that makes sense to us, and then exploring that in more detail. And remember, one person is not an entire customer segment. They represent one idea, one thought. We need to listen to that, but we can't make wholesale changes or wholesale decisions based on one person's perspective. So we want to explore, we want to ideate, we want to refine our prototype. Think about that. We want to test, right? So we're constantly going to be testing the information that we receive. And then when we feel that we've got a really good sense of, what this information and this research is telling us, we're going to implement that, and that moves down the road into this commercialization stage. This is not a one and done, never. And even for companies that have been operational for years, they are still engaging in design thinking because customer preferences change, customer needs change. And companies that do not do this successfully typically tend to no longer be in business. BlackBerry and RIM is a really good example of a company that was not paying attention to market changes. So this is an ongoing process as an entrepreneur. We are constantly engaged in this. And at some point, we don't even think about it anymore. We just know it's embedded in our psyche. And we know that we need to be paying attention and listening to our customers and those people that are interested in the products and the services that we're providing. So we want to begin by using and thinking about this, using the information that you guys pulled together in your groups earlier. So pull up those answers, pull up those ideas, and we're going to start working together to start writing some customer hypotheses. So how are we going to do that? So we're going to begin by thinking about, at a very basic level, a decision or a behavior that's motivated by some reason for why somebody would want to purchase that or be engaged with your research, with your products, or with your services. Okay, so again, we're thinking about these customer segments. So let's take a look at this. So here's the framework. So we're going to identify a specific person who makes the decision or has a certain type of behavior for some sort of reason. So let's take a look at an example here. So a grocery shopper who makes a grocery order online. So the specific person is the shopper. What's the decision? What's the behavior? They are ordering groceries online. And why are they doing this? because groceries are delivered to their front door. So I want each of you to go back to your customer segments and try this. And then we'll get one or two of you to share what you've come up with. So who is that specific person? Why are they doing what they're doing? And what are they specifically doing? And what is that reason? Okay, so take a couple of minutes and then I'm going to pick on one or two of you to share with us, with the group, what you've come up with. Okay, so specific person, the decision or the behavior, and the reason why. So take 2 minutes, look to your research or to your customer segmentation pieces that you did this morning in your groups and see what you can come up with.
Can share your screen again.
Sure. Yep.
Now, I had a problem with writing that. So, because I'm not sure this because that we wrote, it's because they doing this or because our product is doing this.
It's because they're doing this. It's about your customer. Your product may satisfy their need or solve a problem for them, right? So if I'm a grocery store and I create an online platform, I'm creating that because I know my grocery shopper wants one.
Okay.
Okay. If your product or service isn't anything that anybody wants, then you're going to have to pivot, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So think of.
So the one I wrote is
Oh, we're not there yet. I want to just
oh.
hang on half a second. I will come to you first, Garrett, when we oh, is there? Okay. So I just want to make sure everybody's at the same place. Is everybody done? Has everybody had a chance to kind of at least get their first iteration of this done? Anybody need more time? Okay, Garrett, you're on deck. Go ahead. Sorry.
So the one I wrote is a farmer who needs to store grain after harvest in bins because grain needs to be transported and processed at a later time. And so this relates to my insect detection device.
Okay. So it's the farmer. So that's the who, right?
Yeah.
And what's the behavior? I'm sorry, go ahead. What's the behavior?
So they store grain after harvest in bins.
Okay. Yep. And the reason why?
Because they need to transport it for processing at a later time.
Okay, so they need to transport it. But and what is your product again? You said something about insects.
Insect detection in stored grains.
Okay.
So
it's because they need to, but is it also, so they need to store it for transport later. But they also need to protect it in the interim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So we're probably going to want to think about refining that, but that is a great starting point. Okay. Uzair, did you have your hand up too?
Yes. So my product is basically a virtual training module. So my hypothesis statement is a student or a machine operator who wants to know more about the machine operations because they have to enhance their skill in a risk-free environment without the actual machine being present.
So it's like a training device.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Miriam. And so I won't get to everybody. So we're going to get another opportunity to refine this. So I'll do Miriam now, and then we'll come back to Fan, Mohammed, and the other. There was somebody else. So we'll come back to you with the next iteration. So I'll do Miriam now, and then we're gonna refine this. We're gonna continue to refine this. So go ahead, Miriam.
A battery company who makes rechargeable batteries, because rechargeable batteries are used in mobile device, and my product is giving cheaper and eco-friendly system.
Okay, so walk me through that again. Sorry, who is your specific person?
Battery company.
Okay, and what is the behavior or the decision?
It is cheaper. They create rechargeable batteries.
Okay.
And because it is used in mobile devices.
Okay.
And my product is giving a cheaper choice and more eco-friendly one.
Okay. Okay, so great starting points, great as basics. Okay, so let's refine this, because that is not the only reason that people will make the choices or make the decisions that they do. So let's look at adding some quantifiable metrics. So let me just screen share. And then for those of you that had your hand up, you will have another opportunity in just a second, once we refine this a little bit, to share those refined statements. Okay, so let's think about how we can refine this, how we can make this more specific. So we're going to take that basic statement that you made, and now we're going to look at that decision or that behavior, what's motivating it, but including a quantifiable metric. So what would that look like? So again, that same framework, but now instead of just a reason, we are quantifying that. So we want to make it more specific. So a specific person, they make a decision or they engage in a behavior because of, and how do we quantify that? So let's go back to our grocery example. So we've got a grocery shopper. They make a grocery order online, and they do this because the groceries are delivered to their door in 30 minutes. Okay, so a little more specific. And there is a reason that we want to do this, because we want to really, again, understand what that consumer or customer is looking for. So if I'm just making a grocery order and it shows up, it could show up in 3 days from now. That may not be what I want. I want something that's going to show up at my door in 30 minutes. And you can think about like Domino's, that one of their big marketing pushes is that it's 30 minutes or it's free, right? So they added this quantifiable metric because they wanted to be more attractive than others doing similar things. So, and they wanted to see if customers really valued that, which they did. So we add this quantifiable metric. So give this a go again, go back to your hypotheses here, your customer segment hypothesis. You've identified that person, you've identified why they're doing what they're doing, but add a quantifiable metric. So Garrett, if I'm thinking about your insect protection, because it reduces insect infestations by 30% or 20%, right? Like start thinking like that. Okay, so take a couple of minutes, and then those of you that didn't have a chance to share last go around, we'll start with you. So I think, Van, you would be the first one on deck. Okay, so Pan, I think you had your hand up last, then I'll go to Waqar. So go ahead. Do you want to share yours? Or Fan? It was Fans, not Pan. Sorry, Fan, go ahead.
Okay, so what I wrote is a 70-year-old, 70-year-old who needs to take action to prevent or deal with their cognitive and memory decline, because they can receive professional brain training at home every day.
Okay, so the everyday is the quantifiable piece of it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, great, thank you. Go ahead, Waqar.
A 3D printing manufacturer who manufactures customized 3D printed products, and different 3D printed products will require different parameters based on required product specifications.
Okay, perfect. So the specifications is that quantifiable piece?
Yeah, the required product specifications.
Okay, perfect. Okay, all right. So I'll come back to the rest of you, and just because I want to make sure that we get through all of our content. So we're going to refine this again. So I thank you, Dimitri, for sharing. So a good piece in the chat there. So generally people's motivations for behaviors fit into some sort of basic interest, right? So does it save time, waste time, save money? Does it raise my profile? Does it make work less work? So again, this is back to that emphasizing piece. So really understanding the motivation. What motivates people to do the things that we do. We're going to talk more about something called psychographics as we go through the program, but really there are often psychological factors that motivate people to do the things that they do. So really understanding what motivates your customer, your potential customer, your client is going to be really important here. So let's refine this one more time. So let's pop back into this slide deck here, and let's take a look at how we can further refine this. So let's think about now this customer hypothesis from the perspective of a general pain point. Okay, so that general hypothesis, but with some sort of pain point. So it can be a relationship between two variables. So specific person who seeks out some sort of pain relief. So there's a pain reliever here when there is some sort of pain point. So for example, a single parent who seeks out online grocery shopping options when they're busy all day with the kids. Okay, so this is a great example of this relationship where there's a pain point between two variables. So again, let's try this with your examples as well. So, you know, Fan, when you were talking about cognitive decline, there's a pain point involved with that. So what's the pain point, and what's the pain reliever, for example? Okay, so give it a go, and then I'm going to come back to Pan and Mohammed because they've also had their hands up for quite a while.
A young man who seeks to consume mushroom capsules when they have enough knowledge in mushroom benefits on prostate cancer.
Okay, so they're taking mushroom capsules to help alleviate or diminish the symptoms related to prostate cancer?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So you've got your pain point, you've got your pain reliever. Really well done. Ashrataz?
Oh, I think Mohammed was ahead of me. Mohammed, do you want
Oh,
to
I
share?
don't see his hand up.
Oh, okay.
So I'll
I
let you go.
couldn't find out the pin
Oh,
point.
okay, okay.
But,
Okay,
Yeah.
you're still working on the one. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I can go. So, my statement is older adults with poor vision is using verbal commands because they want to get proper situational awareness when they're traveling in autonomous vehicles. Otherwise, it can make them anxious about their traffic surroundings.
Okay. Okay. So your pain reliever, what is your pain reliever?
The verbal commands to give the situational awareness to the passengers.
Okay, so basically information, ensuring people are well informed, and the pain point to relieve anxiety.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, those are good. Well, Car, I'm gonna I want to continue moving forward, so we're gonna come back. So I'm gonna take two with each of these just so we can get done on time. But this is great. So this is as you are just defining these customer hypotheses, use these frameworks to help you start to really clearly understand and articulate who your customer is and what need or what problem you were solving for them. Okay, one more here. Now we're going to do it with gains. So we've done it with pains. Now we're going to do it with gains. So this is going to be a refined hypothesis with metrics that matter now to the customer. So again, who's that descriptive customer profile? What action or gain creator when there is a pain point? So for example, we've got a millennial cost-conscious grocery shopper who shops online to save money when they're at month end and money is tight. Okay, this is pretty specific, but then this also helps really target who that customer is and what it is we're doing for them. So you'll see there's been this evolution of our customer here and that customer hypothesis. You might not get all the way here in the early stages. You may be starting at that basic customer hypothesis and refining it as you go along. But give it a go, and then we'll come back to a couple of you. So Waqar, Mohammed, or whomever else would like to share. So take a couple of minutes, and then we'll share just a couple of those, and then we'll move on to taking a look at those value propositions.
Yeah, so I would say a vet technician.
who do quality checks of radiographs because they should be in great shape. And the pain point is that it takes a lot of time, and the product that we provide will just save their time in that manner.
Okay, so you'll want to tighten that up a bit, but you're on the right track, right? So to save time, right? So you'll want to, this is the action and this is that pain point. So, but you're definitely on the right track. So good job. Wakar, go ahead.
A 3D printing manufacturer who provides customized products with varying specification when customers demand different products.
Okay, so what's the pain point?
The pain point is to products are with varying specification, like every product that is demanded has a different parameter, like it has different specifications, like it has different quality. Every product is with different quality and different specification.
Okay, so, but why do I care if I'm your customer? What's the pain point to me as your customer?
My customer is the industry, the manufacturer that is dealing with their own customer. So the manufacturer has orders or demands from their customers. Their customers want a customized part. Everyone wants
There
a
it
different
is.
part.
That is the gain. Customized solution to your manufacturing needs or something like that, right? So you want to really hone in on what the gain is. It's the customization. The gain is that customization. My pain point is when I can't find what I need, right? Or I can't provide what I need as the manufacturer. So yeah, no, excellent. Good job. And you, Sarah, go ahead.
A novice machine operator who wants to practice machine operations anytime and anywhere in risk-free virtual environment without the cost of actual machine being present.
Okay, so is the machine operator, so this is a really interesting piece. That's the end user. Is that the customer?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's not the company that's training him?
It can be, but even in the company, the people who are operating the machine, they are the end customers.
No, they're the end user. Are they paying
End
you?
user.
Who's paying you?
That I have not actually worked on actually.
Yeah,
So
they're the end user. They're not necessarily the person that's paying you. Your customer is that person that's paying you. So there's a really good example of, you know, the end user may be different than the person that is going to be making the buying decision or is motivated. So likely it is the company that is training employees who are the end users to become more efficient, more effective, etc., so they can do a simulation. Or it may be a university or a technical college that is purchasing this technology to train students, right, who are also the end user.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just something to think about, because I think we sometimes think the end user is always our customer. That's not true. So, you know, so you want to definitely think about the relationship. Who's making the purchasing and the buying decision may be different from the person that's using the product in the end. So if you think about a hospital that buys MRI equipment, I'll come back to you right away, Dimitri, you know, the end benefit, the factor is hopefully the patient, but the patient's not paying for it, the hospital is, and they want to do diagnostics effectively. Sorry, Dimitri, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
You're right on point with what I was going to ask anyways, with your hospital example. So we said if there's a particular tool, the buyer is the hospital, the end user is the doctor, the beneficiary is the patient, person who benefits from it. So that you start to kind of categorize stakeholders according to how they're touched by the solution. And then the other way around is how do they influence the buying decision or the adoption decision and so on. So really getting granular here. Good for you guys.
Yeah, no, this is excellent. Wakar, do you have a question?
Yeah, if we have time, I want to discuss mine. Like I said, that a 3D printing manufacturer who provide customized products. So I think the customized products part is the action.
Okay.
Yeah, And the pain point here is the products with like the demand is with varying specifications, like every product that is demanded by the customer from the manufacturer has different specifications, like different design and
Yeah, so Wakari, and this is going to be a really good discussion with your facilitator in your first set of office hours, because you've got a whole chain of things that are happening here. So if we think about the distribution chain, particularly when it comes to manufacturing, where are we selling in? Are we selling in at the manufacturer level where we've got new technology and the manufacturer is going to use that, but it's going to go through to a distributor, to an end purchaser, to a end user. So you're going to want to start to think about the whole chain and how it gets to the very end user, and kind of reverse engineer that to start thinking about that. And like Dimitri said, all of those people in between that might be influencers, purchasers, beneficiaries. So definitely it's not a 2-minute conversation here, but you're on the right track. You're thinking about it correctly, but continue working on that. Think through that whole sort of distribution channel, and then we will have more conversations in those one-on-one meetings during office hours. And that's exactly what those office hours are for, to talk about your specific ideas and how that relates to the research that you're going to be doing in terms of these interviews with your customers and your end users. So really, you guys are doing a great job. Like, this is getting pretty granular. We often don't get here quite so soon, but this is excellent. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I have 10 minutes. I want to finish up on time. I want to respect your lunch hour. And I think we've already kind of discussed this. So did you encounter any challenges? And I think we've talked about some of these already. How was this? How is this as an exercise in terms of getting you to think differently? Is this valuable? Yeah, I've got a couple of head nods. So you're going to want to continue. Sorry, somebody said something?
Sorry, I just wanted to say it's very helpful, but it opens a lot of questions, especially about who the end user is, yeah, a lot of moving parts in here.
But that's good. And the reason that that's good is the better you can do of this section of sort of this whole business planning process, the better positioned you'll be in terms of refining the research you're doing, the product you're developing, and making sure it satisfies a need and solves a problem. There are lots of examples. I'm going to use this example. I used to work at Pepsi. There was a product long time ago, I'm going to age myself, called Orbits. And Orbits was a clear liquid that had little colored candies suspended through the drink. And it looked psychedelic, right? And it would come in 4 flavors. And Pepsi, which is unusual for them, launched this product without doing the appropriate amount of research. And this product was a colossal failure. It was a colossal failure. And I remember when I was working there as a sales rep, we were having to spend an exorbitant amount of money going back and collecting expired product and product that would not sell off of store shelves at 7-Elevens, Circle K's, grocery stores across North America. It was just a disaster. And what happened is somebody thought it was a good idea. They launched it. They didn't do the proper research. They didn't go through the design thinking stage, and it cost them a ton of money. So you do not want that to happen. You do not want to take a product all the way to commercialization, push it out there only to have it fail. Pepsi can absorb that kind of a loss. Most of us cannot, right? So that is why we're doing what we're doing here, is because we don't want to be the Orbits of the Pepsi world at all. Okay, so that's why we're doing this. So no, Mohammed, you're not wrong, but it's gonna, in the early stages, you're gonna feel like you have more questions than you have answers. But those questions, we're gonna look to find answers to them in those customer interviews. Okay, last piece for today, value propositions. So what is it that you offer? What is it that makes you unique? What about this is different than anything else that's out there. So who are you focusing on? Who is this for? Okay. What job would they hire your solution to do or purchase your solution to do? What is their need? This needs to be in their words, not your words. What's the offer? What's the benefit to the customer? So try and frame this from either a pain reliever or a gain creator. And what does this ultimately enable for your potential user customer? So what's their biggest objective? So let's look at an example, because this can be a bit confusing if you're trying to sort of frame this. So here's a really great example. So for non-technical marketers, there's your target customer, who struggle to find return on investment in social media. So this is the statement of need or the opportunity. Analytics is the product name. This is a web-based analytics software, so product category, that translates engagement metrics into actionable revenue metrics. This is a value proposition. This is what analytics does. This is how they bring value to their customers. And this is based in part on those customer interviews, those customer discussions, because this company has identified that there are non-technical marketers out there who don't know if they are getting any kind of return on their social media activities and their investment. So they have created an analytics software that helps a company determine whether or not they are getting any kind of return on their investment when they are investing in social media activities. Okay. Another way or another framework or another approach, I prefer this approach. This makes more sense to my brain, is to think about this in terms of your customer, your problem, and your solution. So who is your customer? What problem are you looking to solve for them? And what product category is the solution sitting in? So the customer is small to medium-sized businesses. The problem, anybody who cannot easily measure social media campaign return on investment because existing solutions are too expensive and or too complicated. And the solution, a low cost, so 50% cheaper, easy to deploy, 25% quicker analytics system designed for non-technical marketers who need actionable metrics. Okay, so that's another way to think about that. I found that most of my ELs in the last cohort chose this approach, this customer problem solution approach. I like it better. Some people prefer sort of the variables and how variables interrelate. Either or is fine. I don't think your team facilitator minds one way or the other, but pick a method that works best for you and just kind of, I would probably adopt that approach. Okay, so we are at 12 o'clock. So what is your homework? So this is your homework for tomorrow. You want to start this customer segment and value proposition hypothesis. So Amanda's shown you where you can find those workbooks. So what we want you to do is practice 3 customer segment hypotheses and 3 value propositions. So you can put those in your workbook. I will go in later tonight around probably 7 or 8 o'clock to see what you've done and just provide feedback. So if you do want, it won't be extensive feedback. It'll just be little comments here and there, good job, or you want to try this. So you definitely want to do this. Plus, you definitely want to watch your video for tomorrow, because you will also have that 10-minute or that 15-minute quiz at the beginning of tomorrow's session. So Dimitri, I'm not sure who the facilitator tomorrow is. It will not be me, but you will have a facilitator. You're definitely going to want to spend some time working on your customer segments and the hypothesis tonight, as well as making sure you look at that video and prepping for tomorrow.
So just a quick correction on the typo for that slide. So
sorry.
it's just because it was we've been iterating through these slide decks and stuff, and we miss the odd instructions. So it would be great, and it's kind of the expectation that you try and get your work done by about 6 p.m. or so, I believe. That way the instructor has a chance to go in and look under the hood in the evening and provide some feedback. it's not like a hard thing.
No.
Like, if you can get it done, I mean, it's not a lot of homework really. And you're not going for perfect, you're going for imperfect responses, guesses, hypotheses, etc. And trying to use that as a point of conversation for feedback asynchronously. What'll also happen is later on, these same workbooks, once they're completed through Bootcamp, will show up in your first office hours, and people will look under the hood again. Now they only have 4 people to deal with, and they'll say, hey, let's talk about some of these things. Let's refine them a little further. And you can come back and revisit those items in the workbook. Like I said, for the first half of core, there's lots of opportunities to say, you know what, I want to improve this. I want to improve this script. I want to improve these questions. I want to change up my approach in outreach or whatever. So a lot of these things that we do in the workbook become food for conversations later and for refining, you know, those things that are going to be the tools that you're going to use throughout the program and stuff. So treat it that way, and look for opportunities to ask questions if you're struggling with doing some of these things.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the clarification. All right. Have a great lunch, everyone. You have a guest speaker at 1 o'clock. I won't be joining you at 1, but you will be in Dimitri and Amanda's capable hands. Enjoy the rest of the week. I will be meeting with my team on Thursday at 1 o'clock. So I look forward to that, and have fun with the rest of the materials. Yeah, Dimitri.
So I think, Amanda, there's 3 people that I'm going to put a link in the chat. So those people who didn't make it on time this morning to do the online quiz, I'm going to ask that you try and find a little bit of time during lunch. Looks like you're done talking in 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Is this something? Okay. Anyway, so yeah, so those 3 people, you know who you are. I'm going to put that link in the chat. Grab it, click on it. It's a timed quiz. So whenever you start, you have 15 minutes towards completion. Decide what time during the break you're going to use it. I need to share that outcome with your instructor so they can kind of address any areas where they feel maybe they need to expand a little bit more. Okay?
Sounds great. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy lunch, everybody. I'll put the timer on and we'll see you back right before 1 p.m. CT. James O'Connor, the founder of Innovation Within, is going to be speaking then. And he'll be showing us how to use Innovation Within, which is our customer discovery tool. So I will, without further ado, I will welcome James O'Connor to take the stage. James, nice to have you. Can you hear us? Here, I'll just get him set up here.
Not sure if I'm seeing James in there. Oh, there he is.
You just might need a few more minutes to get set up. So Dimitri, do you have any other announcements or anything else you want? Oh, looks like he's coming back in now. So we'll be able to get him. There he is. Hello, James. How are you?
Hi, good. I'm good. How are you, Amanda?
Doing well, thanks. Happy New Year. Welcome.
Happy New Year. Hey, everybody.
Fantastic to have you here. So I just gave a little brief introduction on who you were and what you'll be doing for today. So without further ado, if you wanted to introduce yourself and get started, go right ahead.
Absolutely. And then I'll do a screen share and give you guys a demo of the platform. So yeah, I'm James O'Connor, and I'm the CEO and founder of Innovation Within. We make a software platform that's designed to help founders like you, innovators, who have a great idea, but are trying to figure out the best business model and to trying to validate and evaluate that in a rigorous way. And the main philosophy behind this is you're going to first create a set of hypotheses that describe your business model. And you'll see that on the business model canvas. And then from there, you'll one section of the business model is your customer segments. And those are the people that you're going to actually go out and talk to and do what is called customer discovery, and use customer discovery as a way to surface insights, the evidence you need to validate your business model. So it used to be that you had an idea and then you said, I'm going to go build something. The problem with doing that is you quite often build the wrong thing. And then you find out too late that nobody's really interested in it, and you try and adjust and switch and change it. It's you've already spent your money, your time, you burn out your dev team, and it doesn't work very efficiently. So this is all predicated on the lean startup methodology, which is actually predicated on the scientific method, which is forming a hypothesis, doing an experiment, which is the interview with a customer, taking the data from that and using that to validate and invalidate your hypotheses, and doing that in an iterative way until you either find out it's a great idea or it's not. Quite often what happens in this process is you actually pivot, right? Where you realize what I thought it was isn't quite exactly what the customer needs, but from those insights, you adjust your business model and your product and service until it fits their need. So any questions at a really high level before I jump in and start doing a demo?
Looks like we're all good. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, so let me do a screen share. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, all good to go.
Okay, good. Let me just move some windows around. Okay. And I definitely encourage you to ask questions as we go. Indulge your curiosity here. Okay, so when you log in the platform, I don't know if you already have your account set up, but when you log in for the first time, your canvas is going to be empty. And the starting point for this process is for you to convert your idea into a set of hypotheses. So I'm not going to discuss the business model canvas in detail, but what I will say is the three most important things are understanding who your customer segments are. That's this box over here on the right. And then on the left, understanding the problem or the opportunity you think you're addressing with your product or service. And then what is the value proposition? And you'll be talking a lot about value propositions, but you want to think about value propositions as, from the customer's perspective, what is the value they see in using your product or service? Okay. So hypotheses, you already know what they are. You're all scientists. The most important thing you can think about when you create these hypotheses is that they are falsifiable, that you can get evidence to show whether these things are valid or invalid when you do your customer discovery. You'll see some of these hypotheses are green, some of these are red. That's because somebody made a decision to do that. To create a hypothesis on the canvas, you just click in the section that you want to, and you type in your text, okay? And when you hit return, it's going to be automatically saved. So you should be able to very quickly figure out and fill out the business model canvas on your own if you have an understanding of the hypotheses that are connected to your business model. Now, when you hover over a hypothesis, you will see a little pop-up. It has a bunch of different things you can do. And one of the first things you want to do is you want to link all of the hypotheses to the appropriate customer segments. So customer segments are special in this world because that's the customers you're going to talk to. And all of the hypotheses to the left on the canvas apply to one or more customer segment. They don't apply to all. So a certain problem may be a problem that's associated with one customer segment, but not another. The way you make that association is with the link icon here that allows you to link that hypothesis to the appropriate customer segments. So when I click this, I will see a list of all of those customer segments. And so, for example, we'll link this to people who love fast food. And you'll notice when I do that, there's a blue highlight. So that's your visual indicator when there is a link between a customer segment and a hypothesis. So when I hover over this, that customer segment will light up blue. The opposite is also true. If I move over to this customer segment, it will light up all of the hypotheses that are connected to it in blue. And that's how you can see the association between this customer segment and all the hypotheses that are dependent upon it. If you want to, you can even use the link icon here to just show that one customer segment and all the dependent hypotheses. This is useful when you're asking the question, when I talk to that customer segment, what questions should I ask them? Because one of the most important things you can do in this process is to come up with really good questions, because questions are what really help you understand whether or not your business model is valid. And we have a feature in the platform for you to write down all those questions and put them in a template and use them for each interview. So that's the process right here. If I'm going to talk to the customer segment, people who love fast food, then I should be asking questions that allow me to understand if this value proposition, that problem, that solution is valid. Okay? Now there's an X there. You'll see that as soon as I went into that mode, the way you get out is to click this and it takes you back out, shows you the whole business model canvas. Now you might be thinking in your head, how do I know if a hypothesis is valid or invalid, right? And the answer to that question is you will know if a hypothesis are valid and invalid when you get enough evidence from your customer discovery interviews. Now, you may do 5 interviews and get a really strong signal about, say, a value proposition, and then feel like, oh yeah, this thing is valid. To validate, you just click the checkbox. And then as time moves forward, you get more evidence from more customer discovery calls, and you realize it's not. So it's okay to change the state, even toggle between valid and not valid and valid and invalid as you go through this process, because it's dynamic, it's iterative, things are changing all the time. Over time, this will all settle out when you do enough customer discovery, but don't worry about making changes in interim. Don't even worry about rewriting your hypothesis. If you decide you want to change it a little bit, you can do that. We keep a complete history of the entire canvas so you can see how it evolves over time. See the slider right here? If I take this, I can go all the way back to the very beginning as I started this process, and then I can actually move forward either one change at a time with the cursor key, or dragging it through time and seeing how it evolved, or if I want, I can even jump to a specific point in time in the process. And you'll notice when you're in the past, the canvas is locked out with the orange indicator around the border and an orange lock to get out of that mode, because you can't edit the canvas in the past. To get out of that mode, you can just click here and that'll unlock the business model canvas. One of the neat uses for this is to go to the last point where you were giving a presentation and then come over here to Canvas Options and export it. It'll export the canvas as a PowerPoint slide. So you can export the previous state, and then you can unlock the canvas and export the current state. So you have 2 slides.
So James, I think the audio may have cut out. Can anybody else hear him at the moment?
Can you guys hear me?
Now you're good. Thanks.
Yes, we can hear.
Yeah.
It was fine for me. I was hearing okay, so maybe on your side, Amanda.
Okay, good to know. So anyhow, just to continue, it's nice to be able to export the canvas. Here's where I was, here's where I am now. I've validated these hypotheses, I've invalidated these, I've added these hypotheses. You're going to find typically the data shows that what happens in this process for most people is a lot of your initial hypotheses turn out to be incorrect. Okay, shouldn't be surprising. As you start talking to customers, you find out a lot of things that you thought aren't true because they were just based on assumptions. And as you get more evidence, you start to realize that's not quite it. So don't be afraid to mark stuff as invalid. The beauty of something being invalid is you don't have to worry about that anymore, right? Your business model doesn't have to focus on a customer segment that doesn't care or a problem that isn't important. That gives clarity because that focuses down on what's left and the new things you come up with. In fact, from a data perspective, if you look at what happens in our platform, typically cohorts start off and for the first couple of weeks, there's way more invalidation than validation. And then by the end of this process, as you get these insights and you start to really understand your customer, you're coming up with much better hypotheses and you're starting to validate them. So it's a very interesting process from a behavioral standpoint to watch people start off. First, you have to admit you're wrong, then actually clicking invalidate, and then getting better hypotheses, asking better questions, and then honing in on this. So it's a really powerful mechanism to really help you de-risk your idea. Okay, any questions about that? And one more thing I just wanted to point out is because you end up with a lot of red stuff on your canvas that turns out to be kind of not important, you can come over here to this filter menu and you can hide the invalidated hypotheses. And that allows you to just focus on what you need to do, not what is not important. You could toggle any state of the canvas right there, but mostly that's used to get rid of the invalidated ones. Okay, any questions on that before I move on to the customer discovery aspects of the platform?
I have a question, James. So if we are just experimenting and we wanted to go back to the last stage, last edit, then go from there another route, but keep the new work that we went back from, just in case it didn't work, then I can go back and continue.
So you're actually almost like a source code, like you want to fork and then go over here and then come back to this.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, it doesn't really work that way. And I understand what you're asking for, but I suspect, Mohammed, when you actually do this, you'll realize it is iterative and you're not actually forking, right? If anything, a good example would be you have a problem statement. I believe this is a problem for my customers, right? And then you find out, oh, that's not really a problem for them, right? And then you mark it invalidated. And then later on, you come up with a new problem statement that's close to it, that's a change of that, right? And then you find out that's valid. That's really what you want to do. The real goal here is that by the end of this, you want your business model canvas to be full of hypotheses that are valid, right? You really, and this isn't a process of seeking validation. It's a process of experimentation that when it's done, the validation is the evidence that allows you to say, I understand my business model. These customers have this problem. And if I solve it, the value is there. That's what you're looking for, okay? So the most important thing of anything of this whole process, if you actually abstract away all of this, what we're doing is you all have an idea. You have some expertise and it's made you come up with this idea. And the real question is, if you push aside all of your passion and your excitement and the things you know about it, you get that out of the frame and you just go talk to customers in a curious, empathetic way, will you discover that they actually need this, right? Because 42% of startups fail because there's no market need. Not because they didn't raise money, not because they didn't have an idea, not because they didn't have a team, not because they didn't build it. They did all of those things, and then they found out there was no market need. That's a big risk. And this allows you to find out right now, before you build it, before you spend the money, before you do all those other things, is there a market need? Now, it's not really a binary thing. You're not going to just go, oh, yep, this is it. What you're going to find out is there's a lot of nuance here. And you will discover some other unmet needs and some problems and some pain points. You'll get a better sense of their ecosystem and how it would be used. And those things will feed back into your hypotheses to give you clarity on the value propositions, other customer segments that might need this problem. And that's actually going to inform your vision. And that's actually the most important part about this. So a lot of people think about, oh, I want to validate my business model, and then I'll go ahead and do it. What you're going to find is this is actually going to take you through a process where you're going to change your business model. You're going to change the way you think about it. You're going to understand your customers better. You're going to think about problems in a different way. You're going to understand the value it brings to them. All of this stuff is going to become a lot clearer, and it's a lot easier to do that now, right? In this state where you haven't built it all, than it is to try and change that, ocean liner once it starts going in a certain direction with your team and building it and trying to reach a market. So this is the time to iterate over this part of it and to understand the market at a much deeper level. Because the fact is, no matter what you build, eventually you have to get it into customers' hands. And the question is, when you do that, do you already understand them? Do you really know what they need? Or are you going to find out then? And if you find out now, it's going to change what you build. Does that make sense, Mohammed?
Yes, thank you so much.
Any other questions before I jump to the next section? Okay, so actually, before I go into the customer discovery module, I just want to say a few things at the highest level for our platform. You're in a cohort. Each one of you is on a team. They're all in this one cohort together. If you want to see the other teams in your cohort, you open this little window right here. That shows you the other teams. If you click on the other team, you'll be able to see their business model canvas. That's what the instructors are going to do, because they're going to give you feedback and they're going to observe what you're doing in the platform. All right. And also, for any one of these hypotheses, your instructors can come over here and there's an icon that allows them to give you feedback. So if they want to give you some feedback, like this isn't clear, or maybe you should think about this, they can just click on this and they can type a comment, right? Just like that. When they hit the comment button, three things happen. One, you're going to get notified in the application on the canvas. See, there's an orange badge. So whenever you see that, you got a comment waiting for you. Two, you'll get a notification in this menu up here, right? And 3, you'll get an email saying your instructor commented on this hypothesis. And in that email, you can click on it and you can jump back into here. The idea is in this early phase, your instructors want to give you feedback on your business model canvas, because if they do, and you get really good hypotheses early on, that whole process starts with a much higher level of chance of getting better. Garbage in, garbage out. Good hypotheses lead to good customer discovery, right? Bad hypotheses lead to invalidating a lot of hypotheses and then coming up with better hypotheses. So with your instructors, they'll give you feedback, encourage you to write better hypotheses, and that's the mechanism they're going to do with that. This menu here on the right here, this one that shows you notifications, you'll also get notifications about your interviews. We'll cover that later, but I just want you to know that menu holds 2 kinds of notifications: the comments on your Canvas and the comments on your customer discovery interviews. Also, we have chat built into the platform. The idea here is you can chat with your teammates. If you're on a team with multiple people, that's the team chat one right here. It's just like Slack, right? And we have one that's called instructor feedback. That's a channel that allows your instructors to give you feedback on what's going on, just like the chat is on the Canvas, but it's just general chat. That's private between you and the instructors. And then this one is called peer feedback. That's a channel that is public to the whole cohort. This is really useful for teaching the concepts and open when an instructor wants to give feedback to team A and see all the other teams see it so they can learn from it. So don't be afraid to use the chat to collaborate inside the platform. Right. One other thing I want to mention is when you're on your business model canvas, you'll see when yours will have a placeholder text that says clicks to add a project description. So just come up with a short project description of your idea so that other people looking at it will know what this is about. Okay. And then there's a place here for you to actually type notes. And one of the best starting points is to actually, before you even fill out your business model canvas, go open this up and write down your idea in essay form, right? Because that process alone is going to make you clarify, I'm building a product to do this for these people. It has this benefit. I think it's going to make money this way. Write all that stuff down, because if you go through that little thought process, it's much easier for you to generate the set of hypotheses after that is done. So you can use that or not. Also, the last thing I want to point out is that there's help built into the platform. Just click the question mark icon, and that will allow you to chat with us either directly through chat, or if we're not online, you can send us email. Also, if you click answers, there's a whole bunch of articles, not only on how to use our software, but on the process itself. So here's one that's a tutorial on how to use the business model canvas. If you get stuck, these articles, we worked really hard to write them in such a way to help you get going as fast as possible. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go to the next feature next to the canvas, which is the interviews. And think of this as a little bit of an interview capture qualitative research tool that helps you conduct those customer discovery interviews and then keep track of the important insights that you learn. And you'll see here on the left, there's 3 sections of UI. On the left is all the interviews you did. The center is the actual interview, the content, the artifacts from that conversation. And the right is some tools that help you keep track of insights, which I'll show later. So you can see to create a new interview, you click the new interview button, and you'll notice right here that there's actually a thing called interview template. So that's what I was talking about earlier, where you want to I'm going to cancel here and I'm going to show you what that is, where you want to write your questions out for each one of your customer segments. So you click view templates, and then you can create a new template for each one of your customer segments, right? And here we have one right here. And if I click edit template, what you want to do is you want to write down ahead of time the questions that you're going to use in that customer discovery interview. Okay. Now, the reason that you want to do that is because you want to be consistent when you do customer discovery, and you want to ask high quality questions. And the more you think about that ahead of time, the better off you're going to be. Now, questions are important, but it's also easy to ask the wrong questions. And in customer discovery, the whole concept is you're not trying to sell them, not trying to pitch them. You're not trying to get them to say, I like your idea. What you're actually trying to do is a lot more complicated, which is I am trying to ask you questions and find out if my product or service is something you need without telling you about it. That's the tricky part. You're not selling, you're not pitching, you're not telling them about your idea, because as soon as you start doing that, You're in a sales mode and you're going to get false information. Hey, what do you think of my idea? Oh, it's great. Well, they're just being polite. You don't want that. So it's tricky, but what you want to do is ask the kind of questions like, tell me how you do this today, right? Let them talk. Oh, really? Is that important to you? Uh-huh. Okay. Who else uses that? Uh-huh. Does it work? Is it working well for you right now? Right? The kind of questions, I don't know what you're working on, but imagine not being able to tell them what you're doing, but ask questions to find out if they need it. That's the key of what you're trying to do. Because in that context, they're not trying to give you answers to make you feel good about your pitch. They're just talking about their world and what's important to them. Another thing that happens when you ask these kind of questions is you will end up hearing things that you had never even thought of because they will tell you about their world, right? And essentially, as you do this more and more, you're going to start to get a lot of insights, and you're almost going to get like a spidey sense and understand that their customers better than they understand themselves because you've talked to so many different ones. So write these questions, write them in a sequence. By the way, this is a place where ChatGPT is your friend, right? If you go into ChatGPT and you say, I'm going to interview such and such about my idea, please give me 20 questions to ask. ChatGPT will be like giving you a whole bunch of really good ideas. I do this all the time, okay? Personally myself. I actually have ChatGPT construct the business model. I could construct my own first just to go through my own thought process. And then I'll say to ChatGPT, I have an idea for a business to do blah, 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 blah. Please construct a lean business model canvas in tabular form. And then I'll just copy and paste the parts of it that I really like into the app. And then right below that, in that same chat session, I'll say, for each of those customer segments, give me 25 questions to ask in a customer discovery interview. And what you'll find is that it's like a muse. It gives you some ideas. It prompts you. You're still going to have your own questions that you want to ask, but this is going to help you a lot, right, to get going. Okay, so then you'll see that we have this interview template. And now when I click new interview, we're interviewing demo, and you could fill out all the information about the person, their title, job description, all that kind of stuff you want. But down here, it says, what interview template? And so when I click interview template 1 and click save, now it's going to create that interview. And right in the notes section, it's going to have all those questions. So when you do that interview, and it's probably going to be over a Zoom call, right? If it's not in person, you have all these questions in front of you, and you can just start answering them and typing what they said. Now, it's really hard to write down the answers in real time. So we have the ability in the platform for you to just record that call in Zoom or whatever app you want, and then just drag the audio file onto here, and it'll upload it and it'll transcribe it for you, okay? Now I'm going to show you what that looks like. And one thing I also want to point out, you may have kind of seen this and are wondering what this is. There's published and drafts, okay? And when we create a new interview, this one we're looking at right now is new, you'll notice this is in drafts. The idea here is that until you finish the interview and have done all of your note-taking and constructed all of your insights, you don't want to publish it, because as soon as you publish it, the instructors are going to see it and they can now look at it and give you feedback. So if you don't want feedback until it's ready, don't publish it. But as soon as the interview is done, you click publish. It says, you sure you want to do that? Because your instructors can see it. And now you'll see that that interview we call demo is now in the published folder. Okay. So just keep in mind that workflow. Instructors can't see it until you publish it. Just think of it as like an email and sitting in your drafts folder until you hit send. And this is the same thing. And send means the instructors can see it. All right, so I'm going to click on one of these interviews that actually has a transcript in it so you can see how that works. All right, so if you look at this, you're actually seeing a complete transcript of the entire conversation. And let me turn up my speaker right here. I'm going to hit play so you can see how this works, okay?
All right, so thank you for, taking the time to meet with me today. Really appreciate it.
No problem. I'm happy to help.
Can you tell me a little bit about, what you do here at Awesome Inc.?
So here you can see we've got a transcript, and in this transcript editor, it's knows what words being said. It highlights it as you speak, okay? And this has a couple really useful purposes. One, to go back and listen to that conversation and review it. Now, to make it take less time, we can allow you to speed up the interview. You see I'm clicking plus right there, and it's incrementing the speed of the playback in 10% increments. So if I hit play, this would be a lot faster.
Currently, I manage a team of 20 individuals.
Right? I actually can usually listen to stuff about 1.4, 1.5 real time, and that makes it a lot faster. But what you're really trying to do is go back and re-listen to that conversation you had, right? And surface the insights. Hold on, somebody's trying to get in. And surface the insights that you got from that conversation so that you can connect them as evidence to your hypotheses. And I'm going to show you how to do that, but it's a really simple and powerful mechanism. So all I have to do is just take my mouse right here, and I'm just going to select some text here, right? I'm just going to select this section of text right here. I'm going to say, hey, that's something important. Now, I have not let go of my mouse, right? If you look to the right side of the screen, as soon as I let go of my mouse, that starts the process of creating an annotation. We call it an insight. So it's captured the text and the audio. And if I want to, I can categorize it using one of these colored buttons like, hey, that was a feature request, right? And then I could write my comment. You want to write down your thoughts and what you think is significant and why this thing that the customer said is relevant to your business model. So this is my thoughts, right? And then underneath this, you can also click this button, and this is where the magic happens, where you can link this insight to any of the hypotheses on your business model. So click it once, it shows you a little infographic of your business model. It says what part of the canvas. So we'll link this to customer segments, and it says which one. And we'll say we want to link this to people who love fast food because what they said applies to it. And then the question is, does that support it or does that not support it, right? So it's a few clicks, select the text, categorize it, type your thoughts, link it to a hypothesis, and click save. And when you do that, it's going to create a new object. We call this an insight. And this insight knows about the interview, who did it, what was said, and it connects it back to the hypotheses. And you can create as many of these as you want off of every interview. And the same ability to create these insights you can literally do here as well, right? I'm going to do the very same thing, and I'm going to link this to that very same one, people who love fast food. Very quickly, it's just a few clicks to do this. And now if we go back to the business model canvas, you'll see when it redraws, it takes forever when I'm on Zoom. If you look at that hypothesis, people who love fast food, do you see there's a little badge on there that says 6 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down? So that means that that canvas knows that you link those insights from the interview to those hypotheses. As a matter of fact, if you do this right, when you get done, there will be a whole bunch of evidence on every single one of your hypotheses that came from the things your customer said. And now if I want to, I can go over to that hypothesis, and you'll see when I hover over it, one of the menu items is under the thumbs up and thumbs down. It says, click that to view the linked insights. So now there's 7 insights linked to this hypothesis. And when I click this, it's going to open a window and it's going to pull all of those insights out of the database and put them into this list view. And I can actually listen right here to what the customer said.
We have conducted a company-wide ideation challenge a few months back.
So now on every hypothesis, you have the evidence that supports and doesn't support each hypothesis. And now you're in a position to evaluate this evidence and make the decision whether or not you want to validate that hypothesis or invalidate that hypothesis. And what's also nice about this is you can just look at the canvas and see how much evidence you have. And in a click or two, you can actually zone in and see that evidence. You can also, I'm going to change this again, but you can also click right on the text right here, and that'll jump you right back to the interview. So if you want to look at the interview and see what else was said, you can do that right here as well. Okay, so I'm going to mark this not as valid. Okay, I've covered a lot right now. This is the essence of the platform. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts about what you've seen so far? Does this make sense?
I think everybody's good. No questions at this time?
I know you're thinking, okay. Right, so I'm expecting questions, but that's fine. Curious people ask questions. You guys all look really curious. All right, so another thing I want to point out is, so this is a really simple process. You know, I've said a lot of words and I've talked for 32 minutes, But in essence, you click here, you type your hypotheses, you link it to a customer segment, you do an interview, you highlight some text, and you link it back to your thing. It's a very simple workflow. And it's easy to remember. And the most important thing is this allows you to very quickly and very easily find out if you're actually learning anything from your customer discovery that's applying to your business model. Now, over time, what will happen is you'll build up a lot of insights. If you want to see all of them, you can click this view right here, and that shows you all of the insights across all of your customer discovery. So if you have 5 team members all conducting interviews, you can see the work they did. You can just click the audio button to hear what they said. You can click on this, it'll jump you to the interview. And on the left, you could filter it. So if I just want to see, I want to see Dinesh's, all of his insights, I can see them right here. So it's great for reviewing your teammates' work. And if you see something interesting, you click on it, it'll jump you to the interview. The categories are nice because if you want to see all the feature requests you got from customer discovery, they're going to be right there with a single click. Or if I want to just see all the insights that are related to our customer segments, I can see that right there. So this is just a way to go back and review the insights that are coming through this process. Because typically, if say your guys are going to do 50 or 100 customer discovery interviews, that's going to build up a lot of insights, and this allows you to just go back through them. And a lot of the insights you have may not necessarily be connected to hypotheses. You'll notice when I showed you those colored buttons, those categories, they're for different purposes. So for example, this one right here is to categorize someone as an interview candidate. When you're doing customer discovery, you always want to finish the interview and ask them if they know anybody else you should talk to, right? Because it's hard to find people that will interview you. And one of your best ways to find someone to interview is to ask the person you're interviewing, is there anybody else, now that I've talked to you and you know what I'm working on, is there anybody else in your network that you think I should be talking to about this? And if they say, oh yeah, I talked to, John Doe at such and such a blah, 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 you've got that in your transcript. You can just select that text, categorize it as an interview candidate. And now, if you go back to the insights view, you could say, find all the interview candidates, and then you have their names right there and you can call them up. So that's as simple as just going like this, boom, like that, right? So that's just useful workflow that's built into the platform to help you do that. The instructors, when they review your interviews, they will create their own insights, and they will by default be categorized as feedback. And that means that you're going to get a notification that says your instructor commented on your customer discovery interview. And just like on the canvas, you'll get a notification in the platform in this menu, and you will also get an email saying, Amanda just commented on your interview with John Jones and said this, which is really good because the instructors want to give you feedback through this whole process to help coach you and mentor you through it so you do this as effectively as possible. There's analytics. I'm not going to go in that. You'll see that. That's analytics for the whole cohort. But under resources, I wanted to point out that we have a cohort hub that has all sorts of, your instructors will put all the content for the platform in here. Every cohort does this slightly different, but it's like a shared Wikipedia page about your cohort. You actually have one yourself. This is really designed for you to put any sort of bench research that about your idea that can be helpful for helping others understand what you're doing. Presentation links, if you want to put links to your presentations for the weekly meetings that you guys do, that's what that's for. And then one last thing I want to point out is if you go to the videos resources, this has several hours of videos on this entire process done by Steve Blank. Like I'll open the one customer discovery best practices. And you can open any one of these. So if you want to understand the problem, you can just click on that, and then this video will start. These are actually really good videos. So peruse this library of videos and watch the ones that look interesting to you, that apply to anything you think might be helpful. They're really helpful. These are all recorded by Steve Blank, who's the guy who invented this whole methodology. So that's kind of it. Any questions? I'd like to open it up for you guys to ask any questions or give me any feedback.
Thank you very much, James, for sharing this application. I do some interviews with users because I work in human-computer interaction, but I wish I was introduced to this before. It is really easy to connect all the ideas and then keep the record. So yeah, I will definitely use it, and I hope to learn it more. So I have a question, maybe I missed that part. When we were writing different insights by connecting each of the quotes from the interviews, so can we also see some patterns, like maybe common themes, or some findings that connects together? Is there any way to categorize those here in this tool?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you guys, I don't know if you just understood what she just told you all, right? But she's already done customer discovery in a different form. She's already done user research, right? This is a tool that does that for you in a much simpler way than most of the tools that are out there. So if you've never done this before, it's really nice to have a tool that makes this so simple. But she's asking the question, is there a way to surface themes, right? That's what she's really talking about. And that's a really good question. We're actually working on a new release of the platform that allows you to create your own sets of categories and then categorize everything according to those themes. And then in the insights view, you'll be able to actually view things by theme. So that's something we're working at, because as people do this process more and more, exactly what you're asking, Astra, I don't know if I botched your name, Astra.
Yeah, I go by my last name, so it's easier to pronounce, Asha.
Oh, way easier. Thank you, Asha.
Yeah, no
So
worries.
yeah, so we're trying to make the platform more powerful. We're actually working on a lot of stuff right now to make the platform more powerful. We're hoping that release comes out in the next month or two. But yes, there will be a mechanism for you to surface all of those themes and string them together and create playlists and things like that. But not yet. Miriam, you raised your hand. Okay, there you are. Go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the nice introduction and amazing platform, honestly, because I got like, wow. Secondly, like, I have my Zoom meeting cut off at the beginning. Now, for the customers that we have different category or segments, right? Now, for the interview, can I categorize that for each kind of segments? Is that possible or not?
So categorizing an interview for a segment doesn't do anything. What you want to
I honestly don't know, because I start learning. So
yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, so a lot of people ask really good questions at the beginning of this process when they see it the first time, and that's a good question. Like, is this, this interview is for someone in that customer segment. And when you create the interview, you can actually say use the template for that customer segment, right? But these are, let's just back up a little bit and get at the 30,000 foot level. And what we're talking about here is qualitative research. Okay. So I like to put things, it's either this or that, right? This is qualitative research. It's not quantitative research. We're asking aspirational questions. We're trying to get to stuff that this can't even be measured yet. We're asking people about unmet needs and problems and pain points. So you don't really even know that that customer segment is valid or that they are in that customer segment. These are all hunches. So we got to be honest with ourselves. This is just a bunch of assumptions that we're trying to use to drive a process to get qualitative information that we can eventually quantify. So this is actually starting off with all touchy-feely, but if you do enough touchy-feely and ask these questions, guess what? You start to get themes that develop. You start to get numbers around it. I talked to 100 people and 70 of them said, this is an important problem to me, right? And they may not be the same customer segment. They may be different customer segments. To be honest with you, I should actually define what a customer segment is, because from the strict definition, a customer segment is different if you reach them in a different way, if they pay a different price, if they have different needs for different features, right? That would be a different customer segment. So let's just talk about my company, Innovation Within. One of my customer segments is you, academic people doing commercialization of intellectual property, right? You guys get the cheapest price, right? You guys use it in an academic environment. You have a bunch of needs. Another one of my customer segments is an enterprise. They pay a lot more money for it. They actually have very different needs. They're far more concerned about things like, we want to see the analytics that we're, having our people do this work. So you don't really know for sure what customer segments are, but it's a way to at least frame these experiments to get you going. And quite often what you'll find is what you think is a customer segment is not a customer segment. One of the things that most people starting off in this process do is they actually come up with like 10 customer segments, right? And that's way too many. You don't really have that many, right? And so from my perspective, Miriam, the reason that you want to have different customer segments is because you're going to want to ask them different questions. Now, some of those questions are going to overlap, right? But for me, like if I'm talking to, so let's say I'm doing customer discovery on you folks, right? The real question I'm going to ask that's different about you is like, how price sensitive are you? Because, people in academia don't have money. Whereas enterprise, I give demos to the enterprise role and they say, oh, that's cheap. Sure, we can pay for that, right? That's not a problem for them. So the reason that you want to have questions for different customer segments is to find out what it would take, what that customer segment really cares about that's different. They may also want different features. So in a lot of ways, the real goal of this is to get you to stop thinking you're right? And get you to start being curious and find out if you're right. And here's the thing, you're probably right and you're probably wrong. They're both true, right? Some things you're right about, some things you're wrong about, and you want to find those out really quickly. Another thing you're going to find out is there's stuff that I hadn't even thought of. That once I start talking to people, I realize, oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I have found people say, well, if you just gave me this feature, boy, that would be really useful. And I think, well, that's a simple feature. Good. You want simple features that make customers happy, right? Give them those things. What are the most important things they need? And quite often, really smart folks that have deep technology information knowledge will start off tackling these really hard problems only to find out that, yes, that's important, but if you just do these simple things first, you'll get in the market, you'll get customers, they'll like you, and then they'll ask. I mean, a good example is what Asha asked for. When I first started the company, people weren't talking about themes. They were just going, oh, really? I'm going to record this? Okay, and I'm going to transcribe it. And then the next thing is after you get sophisticated, you're like, I want to organize that in themes. I want to have play roles. I want to do this. I want to do that. So you get in the market, and then your customers, this is why I believe customer discovery is you do constantly ongoing. You don't stop once you start going. You just keep going because you will keep getting more insights from your customers as they use your product, and they will give you feedback. And this is how you delight customers, right? So don't be so fixated on rules and regulations about what is in the Canvas and what isn't. In a lot of ways, so we're working on a big shift in the platform to introduce AI in every turn. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to actually analyze your idea and then construct a business model canvas based on your idea. Because in fact, if you are doing drug discovery, you might need a box on the canvas that says FDA approval. If you're doing something that has regulatory compliance, you may need that. If you're doing something that requires manufacturing, there's a bunch of risk around that. Those are the things you want to do customer discovery on. These canvases were designed by academics who did it in an abstract, theoretical way. It's a great starting point, but I actually know that there's lots of different variations of the canvas that should fit your problem and what you're trying to solve. But I'm not trying to undercut this methodology at all. I will tell you this, if you do this, you guys, it's going to change you. Because what happens is when you start talking to your customers, and this is why I emphasize how important it is to be curious and empathetic, right? Curious because it's really hard to talk to someone and interview them if you just don't care about it, right? It just is. I can tell you for a fact, if you don't care, I don't care about video games. The last thing I want to do is interview 14-year-old boys about shoot 'em up games, right? So if you don't care about it, it's really hard to solve that customer problem. And the other thing is if they start telling you this stuff, if you're not empathetic, it's just going in one ear and out the other. You want to kind of sit in their world and understand their life. That's why you want to ask these kind of tell me about your story kind of questions, right? That really helps you place your solution in their world and start to realize the connections of how it's going to be used and how important it is. And that might lead to other customer discovery you do. And quite often people find out in this process that a lot of their early assumptions are wrong, but that leads to assumptions that are correct. That leads to more discovery. And then very quickly you find out yourself with a new vision that's a better vision that's really focused on what your customers really need. And quite often, and I can tell you, I have had people use our software. And one of my favorite stories is Mariceli. She came up with a spray, aerosol spray you spray on a burn, and then you put the second skin on it, right? She actually came up with this idea in high school, right? And then a couple years later, she actually, it's a long story, but she actually ended up in Rutgers, and she used our software. And she had her team do customer discovery in 3 different countries. And one of the things that she ended up doing was eventually interviewing first responders. So when she first started interviewing people, she wasn't thinking about people in an ambulance. She was thinking about, hospitals and this and that. And when she talked to first responders, guess what she found out? That first responders, when they have to treat burn victims and they can't do anything about it, if you live in the third world and you're not getting 911 medevac to a burn center, it's depressing. It's horrible. These people would just face depression after they dealt with what they did, because imagine 3 kids get burned in a fire and what do? There's nothing you can do. You can't walk away from knowing this. And so what ended up happening is it just gave her more incentive and more motivation. She realized, I have to do this. This isn't something like some side project that's kind of fun. So in a lot of ways, when you discover you're doing something that can make the world better, this customer discovery actually helps you to position yourself and understand, and actually quite often it'll make you realize you need to do this. Or it may, one of the outcomes here is my idea, great idea, but the world doesn't need it, right? There are so many amazing, awesome, phenomenal ideas that just aren't needed. One of my favorite ideas that's mind-blowing, an incredible solution. This guy back in the 1800s invented a train that would go on one rail. And you're thinking, how do you do that? How does it not tip over, right? And this guy invented gyroscopes and an air compression system that balanced this train and turned it and did all this kind of stuff. And it was amazing, right? And you only had to put one track down, right? It didn't win. So it could be a great idea. You could solve every technical problem in the world, but it doesn't mean there's a place for it in the market. And you want to be open to that, right? And the thing is founders, I'm one of them. We're all delusional. We want to change the world. We see what our idea can do and where it can take us. And that is awesome, right? But set that aside and then go about the business of challenging your assumptions and finding out. And at the end of the day, you're going to find out I'm either right or I'm wrong, or I'm going to pivot and eventually discover the right thing. My vision is going to get focused on the right thing over time. So this is discovery. We call this the discovery platform, right? That's the reason we call it. Innovation Within believes that you are all innovators and you have it within you to create amazing innovations, but you need to discover your place and what's really important and how that works. And that's a little journey that you're going to go on through this course you're taking right here. And hopefully our software helps you do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That was a great question. Any
Okay.
other questions? Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question? Okay, so for my project, the people who are actually going to use my software are not the ones that are going to buy my product. So the end users are different than the people, the stakeholders, I can say. So how I am going to differentiate these 2 groups in my customer discovery sections, and how I'm going to just interact with them. If I'm going to just, because I have to account for both of those benefits, on one hand, I have to take care of how the end users are going to benefit from what I'm going to provide for them.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I have to think of what monetary benefits I'm going to provide for the business that is going to buy my product. So what is a trade-off between these 2, and how I'm going to just distinguish these 2 sections?
That's a great question. So Saeed, you are in
Yeah.
the same position that I am in.
Yes.
Okay. So this is tricky, you guys. This is a really good question, where the user, right, isn't the buyer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You guys are all my users, but Amanda bought it, right? And Amanda decides what you get to use, right? So this is tricky because she could pick the wrong tool or the right tool, right? Or if she picks the wrong tool, it doesn't help you, right? So this happens all the time, where the person who's making the decision to buy it is not the actual person who's using it. And as Saeed pointed out, I have two masters and I need to make both of them happy, right? So, and the canvas are called customer segments, but that's not the right word. It should just be stakeholders, because they're both stakeholders that you have to please. So in this case, you actually have to understand who's going to buy it and how it fits into that world. And you have to understand the users, because you need to satisfy both of them. Because Saeed, what happens if you make the person who buys it love it because they think it's a great idea, right? But then in fact, the users don't like it, right? So I have to do customer discovery, and so do you, on both. The people who run the programs that hire my software and the people that actually use my software itself. So your customer discovery gets a little bit more complicated, because you could make a perfect software for the users, but if the buyer doesn't care, right, then they could sabotage the whole success of your company, right? So, and that, by the way, that's talked about in those videos, but the key is you need to talk to both of them. You have to do customer discovery on both of them. And that's why they're different customer segments from my perspective. I actually call them different stakeholders, right? Because I like the term stakeholders because not everybody's a customer. Let's imagine that I have a business model and I need to have some sort of regulatory approval. Well, some of the people I may want to talk to are lawyers that know about that, right? Or maybe industry experts that could guide me. So I think that's why I call it discovery platform. You kind of want to open up your perspective and ask yourself, who out there could I talk to that could tell me things that could help me? And it's not just your customers, right? You absolutely want to do customer discovery, but it could be other stakeholders in that ecosystem that have information that could help you understand the journey you're about to embark upon as an entrepreneur, okay? So this canvas was prescribed 15 years ago. It's a great idea, but just open it up a little bit. Use this tool to help you do what you need, right? And you need to talk to a bunch of different people. And Saeed, there might be like 5 or 6 different types of buyers that you need to talk to, right? You want to identify them, because they, like for the buyer in the enterprise, right? When I sell my software enterprise, they're all about IT and security and compliance and all sorts of stuff. When I sell to a university, they have a very different perspective, right? So, and when I sell to an accelerator, it's even different. So just, don't be bound by the boxes and the titles of them. Be bound by the problem you're solving and who can help you. I saw
Thank you
another.
for your explanation. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Saeed?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, good. I thought I saw another hand. Did somebody else have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
That was just me, Dimitri. So just to kind of expand a little bit with the example that James started with. So in our case, the program manager, I'm not necessarily the money bags guy who's paying for this. My director needs to know some stuff. I need to be satisfied in the way that this fits our instructional design. So we give James feedback, he asks questions. When we talk to our facilitators, are the features there that the facilitators are using, does it fit the way that they teach and they coach and they mentor? Talk to the students, they're the ones actually creating a canvas and a business model case that might work for them. Are the features easy to use? Are they getting the benefits? Is it user friendly and stuff like that? So there's all sorts of conversations we're having. And beyond that, there's the people that want metrics from us so that they can ask for funding. So what can we easily grab the numbers that we need using the back end and share just some specifics that are needed for those folks as well. So James is going to talk to all of us. And he's going to get that the collective wisdom of multiple perspectives. He's the smartest one in the room right now because he knows what everybody wants and how it impacts anybody who might influence the adoption or the buying decision. And we always have to try to emphasize that. So yes, it's important to talk to the person who has the money, is going to make that decision, but they may not be the only person who makes the decision. As a matter of fact, they may not even be the decision maker. They just have the money. They ask somebody else to make the call. So you got to find that person. And you don't know who you don't know until you start talking to people. Sometimes you're talking to the wrong person, but in that conversation, they will identify 3 other people you should be talking to and so on. So
that was awesome. He's 100% right. And so again, this is all about curiosity. If you want to know these things, you're going to ask them who you need to talk to. Think of yourself as a researcher and you're digging for the truth. And you're trying to, what I love about what you're about to do is that you are stepping into the unknown, right? You are trying to solve a problem. What unmet needs exist out there? What is a problem that is new, that's novel? What, you see what I'm saying? And I love being in that space, but it really helps if you're curious, right? I'll give you an example. This is a tangible example. I run a program for another university where we actually do the instruction and the training and the mentoring and all that. They hire us to do everything that that Amanda and Dimitri is doing for you, right? So I do these mentoring calls, and I get a guy on a call, and he said, I just got off the phone of a customer discovery interview. Now, this guy's making a sensor that goes into a sewer that can help detect what's going on so they can make sure it doesn't back up and flood and dump sewage into the environment. And he gets on the call with me, and he said, yeah, he goes, I just got off this customer discovery call, and this lady would not stop complaining for 90 minutes. It was a 30-minute call, right? And I said, you know, he's exasperated, right? And I said, well, what was she complaining about? Oh my God, she's got so many problems. And I'm thinking, wait, those are opportunities, right? And he says, yeah, he says, you know, I was trying to talk to her about my sensor. Our sensor's so much better than the other sensors. But, you know, she was just telling me the sensor isn't the problem. I can buy sensors, but they generate so much data. I have like 1 million rows in a spreadsheet, and I don't know what to do with it. And I said to him, that sounds like a bigger problem than making a cheaper sensor. And he's like, well, yeah, but I'm an AI vision expert, and that's what I do. And I said, no, you're not. You're a I solve problems person, and that's what you do. You should do customer discovery. Is there somebody out there that's solving that problem, right? And he's like, no, not really. And I'm like, well, how hard would it be to write a software platform that ran on the cloud, that slurped up all this data and put it into a database and analyzed it and sent them alerts and did, you know? And he goes, well, you know, that's not really what I'm trained in. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you're trained in. You discovered the real problem here. And by the way, if you built that software platform, then your sensor could work with it, but you can make it work with every sensor. And then you'd be like the Microsoft of this whole thing. And if your sensor is better and cheaper, then everybody who's using your software and other sensors could buy your sensors as well. And then you literally become the monopoly. And he just sat there and he looked at me and he goes, I need to completely rethink this. And I said, exactly. He goes, is this a pivot? I said, go do customer discovery on the software. And by the end of this whole thing, they completely pivoted to, we want to own the software and make the best sensor, right? And we'll work with all these other sensors as well. That's what I'm saying, is that he started this conversation off being exasperated that this woman was just complaining and moaning and bemoaning all these problems she had. And it's like, you guys, that's the clue phone. That's the real problem out there, right? So quite often you want to build X and you find out, yeah, it's marginally useful, but I really need to build Y. And if I do that, then I really have something here. And then your vision is like, oh, my vision is to be, my vision is for our software to run in every municipality in every city around the world and stop sewage from backing up into the environment because of what's happening with global warming. And you know what? What I just said to you, you turn that into a pitch deck and you go into a VC and they're like going, that's a real problem. I could fund that. Right? If you go to a VC and you say to them, hey, I got an idea for a better sensor, they'll say, oh, tell me about it. Whatever. But if you go to them and said, I had the idea for a better sensor, but you know what? I went and did some discovery and I uncovered a much bigger problem. And that's what we're attacking. That's the kind of thing a VC says, I like that kind of guy. Right? I like that kind of person. I'm going to invest in that because they're going to find problems, right? And they can see the bigger picture and they can actually solve the bigger picture. They're not stuck in a little rut of doing, I'm an AI vision expert kind of guy. So in a lot of ways, I love that experience. That just happened 6 months ago, right? I love that experience because that founder was so intent on, because of his expertise. I call it expertise. It's a cognitive bias. Your expertise blinds you from seeing other things, right? Because you're so focused on that, you want to just see that happen. In a lot of ways, this process is your chance to disconnect from your expertise bias and turn into a researcher. And a researcher that actually isn't trying to sell and pitch and get your idea out in the market. It's actually trying to understand problems. And if in the act of understanding problems, you discover that the ones you're solving is important, then stick with that. If not, just keep going, right? Curiosity and empathy. Yeah, anybody else have a question? I saw somebody else. Oh, yeah, Mohammed? Oh, that's a thumbs up.
It's yeah, thumbs
Yeah,
up.
sorry, I really like what you said, and I don't want to waste some time just for the technology. But yeah, thank you so much.
I think that's a good place to kind of wrap it up though, James. So I think we can, I want to see as much jazz hands as we can. James comes out and does this for us every time. It did a wonderful job once again. Everything was on point and kind of resonated with us today, James. Thank you for that. You're welcome back anytime you want to come back. You know you're a favorite among our cohort here. So
I love to do it. I want to say something about this, right?
Sure.
Why do I keep doing this? Okay. And I'll tell you why, because this is another thing I want you to think about as an entrepreneur. You know what Y Combinator is. I'm sure you've all heard of it, right? Paul Graham, who started Y Combinator, one of the things he says is when you're a founder, do things that don't scale, right? And that sounds counterintuitive, but what he's saying is there's a point in time when you first start off where you can do things that don't scale because you're small, right? And right now, I love doing these training sessions. I learn so much. I get feedback. I get feature requests. I get a sense of what's going on with entrepreneurs, right? But if I had 1,000 of these, I can't do this. So right now, I'm doing something that doesn't scale, and I find it very enriching. It's really important for the company for us to do that. So thank you for inviting me. I love doing these. I'll keep coming back as long as I can, but there's going to be a point in time where hopefully I'm so successful that I can't do that all the time, right? And then by then we want to try and inject this, you know, what we just did here in the platform with in-app guides and things like that so that you can still get this message, right? But I do really enjoy doing this. I love working with entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. I am just like you. I'm really no different than you. I'm just doing that. What happened is I started to do this process and I had no tools. And I'm a software builder, so I decided to build a tool for my needs. And then I started doing customer discovery. And guess what? I fell in love with it. And so that's what I like to do. I hope that this process, if anything comes from it, that you develop this skill of being able to be curious and to go out and talk to people. We live in a society that has just gotten more polarized, and people are in their own little filter bubbles and they're in their own computer worlds, their own AI worlds. This is a chance for you to get out and to start talking to people. It's extremely powerful. And if you do this, it's just going to make you a much better entrepreneur because you're going to understand your customers. So thank you for having me, Amanda and Dimitri. You guys, good luck with your cohort. Go out there and be curious. I hope that you have a great cohort and that the software helps you to become successful.
Thank you so much, James, for the incredible presentation and being generous with your time and wisdom. Lots of great information that we have. So we'll have this recording available to rewatch at any point. But we just want to wish you all the best. We're so excited that we're able to use Innovation Within to support our participants for this cohort. And we look forward down the road to seeing the new features that are unveiled.
Can't wait to show them to you. I'll probably be calling you up to do discovery to see what you think before I release it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Take care.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great one.
Yeah. Students, stick around a little bit. Yeah, I just want to echo that last thing. That was a lot of information. It's kind of really important that we use Innovation Within regularly and effectively. So go and bookmark today's session with James. If you feel you need to go back and at a certain point, you've done enough populating your Innovation Within Canvas, and now you want to go back and how do I do those insights? How do I label things? How do I connect the insights to the customer segments and so forth? Why do I have to do that? It's good to kind of keep that one again as one of your bookmarks earmarked so that you can you can kind of go back and reference it. And again, there is a chat feature. They respond quite quickly. Amanda and I are also on the tech channel on Slack. We talk to each other, we respond. Sometimes we create little videos, which is the easiest way to respond and show you something. So let's use all those tools. Stretch a little bit. I don't know, stand up, because I'm just going to take another 3 minutes and just kind of orient you for the afternoon. So as you leave us, you have some things that should be on your mind that you want to work on for tomorrow. So your quizzes, thank you for everybody that was here and got them done. They're already pre-marked. I've got the data from the back end. I'm going to send it to Rosalie. She'll take a quick look and see, is my question a little too hard? Was it the wrong question to ask? Or did we forget to teach something in the video that maybe we should try and pick up somewhere and make clear and so on? So check your understanding means that. I'm not grading you. We're checking your understanding. So again, tonight, you will have another video to watch. And the reason we did that, we said, is because we thought that if people could watch these on their own terms, in the past, what we had is we had Zoom fatigue because we just said way too much in a 3-hour or 2-hour period. All right, here, let's see. Slideshow. How do I get this? Give me a second, folks. I'll get this to work. Everything's in my way here. That's the problem. Zoom gymnastics. All right, slideshow. From the current slide. Let's go with that. All right, everybody can see that. That's good. All right, so for homework tonight, obviously there's another lecture to watch. We saw Assessing Risk Part A. I want you to watch Assessing Risk Part B, which will set you up for tomorrow. Do it in small bursts. You know, watch a little bit, go have some lunch. Some of you like to watch it in bed at night, whatever you want to do. You've got till tomorrow morning when we start. And then there'll be another quiz again to check your understanding. And then tomorrow's facilitator will look at that and say, okay, what do I understand from the way they responded? Which questions were easy, good, they grasped that concept, and so on. Oh, here's one I need to kind of circle back and talk a little bit more about. So it's a tool for both you and for us. Student workbook, Rosalie assigned, I believe there are 4 slides. The first 4 slides are associated with the homework, or 3, I'm not sure. But anyway, you're creating customer segments using the workbook page associated to it. You'll see it there. It'll say activity 1 and activity 2 kind of thing, which connects with activity 1 and 2 from today's work. So you're also writing some 3 high customer segment hypothesis and 3 VPI. You've already started, so it's just a matter of completing that assignment, those 2 assignments in the workbook, and having some good talk points for your office hours that are going to be coming up in the weeks to come. We'll be adding teams, so little team channels to a private Slack channel with you. I guess I'm going to explain this, and then Amanda's going to correct me if I didn't do it correctly. Basically, one facilitator is connected to 3 or 4, possibly 5 participants. There'll be 3 groups, 3 facilitators in the core program. So we're getting you to kind of know who that is going to be. That's going to be applied more later. But in the case where you might want to share something with one of your specific facilitator and start that conversation early, this is the way to kind of go and check. So any upcoming scheduling conflicts, for example, that you might have, give us lots of notice so that we can kind of work out, okay, so how are we going to create accommodations for you? Anything you want to add to that, Amanda?
Sure. So there'll be 2 kind of channels that we'll be inviting you to. One is going to be with your assigned facilitator and the other students that are in that group. So the assigned facilitator will discuss anything in terms of office hours, etc., in that channel. This specific channel that we're talking about, it'll just be between yourself and then the assigned facilitator, and then Dimitri and I too. So if there are any instances of any scheduled conflicts that you need to discuss ahead of time, then you can just speak to us in there, just so that way we're all on the same page.
Good stuff. Please look in your, using your Gmail, you're going to try and connect Innovation Within tonight, right? Correct? It should be an invitation from Innovation Within to you to connect to your specific account there. You may have to check your spam folder. It says right there because sometimes it ends up in there if you don't see it. You don't see it, you don't find your spam folder, your next thing is to go to Slack and Slack Amanda very quickly. She'll either reach out to Innovation Within, or you can do it yourself. I guess if you're not in there, you can't do it yourself, so you'll be reaching out to Amanda. Set up your account tonight. And I guess any information that you could put in there, remember, we're starting really messy. It's like a big hairball, and we're going to have to sort of unravel this hairball and make it into a nice straight path later on. So for now, put in the bits and pieces, the guesses that you have, and start just getting acquainted with the program. We'll get some time to work in there, I think, this week, and then it'll be a lot of trial and error, talking with us, talking with each other, talking during Scrum sessions, figuring it out as we go. So you don't have to be an expert right away, but everything that you learned, we're going to slowly kind of go over and use as we go through the course. Familiarize yourself with the Notions page. It is where it's like master control, things that you need to know, things that you need to get to are linked up there and so on. When you just can't remember how to get something, you didn't bookmark it, head over to Notions and find it. You'll find it there for sure. So at the very least, hopefully today you bookmarked the homepage for Notions, and then everything after that it connects to that. All roads lead to Notions. Look at your team folders too, just so you know you have access to them. Bookmark that as well. See what's in there. Familiarize, because we're going to be talking about them. You might as well say, oh, I know, I looked at that the other day. Download, read, fill out, and re-upload your video consent form. Amanda, why don't you give us a little bit of information as to the significance of that?
Of course. So the reason that we have the video consent form is for the University of Manitoba, and just for us to be able to record these sessions and have them available to view and watch. It just goes through the process of saying, yes, you have my consent in order to view, record the sessions there. So we're not having the recording, having the gallery view where it shows everybody. It'll just record the person that's speaking, and if there's just shared screen at that time. So to access your team folder, again, it's best to go through Notion. Under the important pages, there's the Cohort 5 team folders you can click on. In that page, then you can click on your team number, and that will bring you to your specific team folder in Google Drive.
And I think if you don't know what your team number is, Amanda, you did share it in Slack and also in the chat, I guess.
I did it in the chat, but after the workshop today, then I'll also be posting it in Slack along with just some other reminders, just where they can find the homework outlined at the bottom of the session page.
So as you can see, it's a good habit to develop a quick look into Slack on a daily basis once or twice to see, okay, what important information are we sharing with you? Is Amanda sharing with you? What reminders are we giving you? What resources are we throwing out? What handouts during the session are we throwing in there for you to grab, and so on? Advice, questions, Q&As, all of that kind of filters through there. Read Talking to Humans. We said that was mandatory. It's not due tomorrow. It's kind of like try and get it and read it slowly between now and sometime before you get to day 1 of Cohort, which is right now about 3 weeks away. So you have some time to read that book. It's not a hard read. It took me a couple hours one afternoon to sit down and read the whole thing. So it's about 80 pages or so. It's not that long a read, but very, very useful information. It recalibrates your thinking and gets you on the right page when it comes to interviews and how you manage all of that. Attendance is important. So I'm going to say this. I need to make it clear that you can't just not show up. You have to give us at least 24 hours of notice if life happens. That's your facilitator, Amanda, and myself. So, I mean, it's good to kind of CC all of us so somebody picks up on it and we make accommodations for you. If attendance absenteeism becomes chronic, then it kind of brings your funding into question. So I'm going to try and protect you from that as much as I can. So please make sure we know ahead of time things that are conflicts so that we can work around it if we can. And if it's something where you're not with us often enough, eventually, we can't justify your absence anyway for too much. So there's a little bit of grace, but not a ton of grace. Attendance is actually one of the metrics that national office wants us to make sure you are here for 90% of the time, if you can. Okay. Outcomes of Lab2Market. James alluded to it. So if you do this whole thing, you will be changed. We know that in one of 3 ways. You may go back to the lab and say, I'm never going to be an entrepreneur. It's not for me. But you'll be a totally different researcher. You'll be looking at world problems differently. You'll be sourcing the kinds of research that you do differently, because you'll be saying, it's not about me and my buddies in the lab and what we think is a great thing to advance mankind's knowledge. Maybe we want to consider the commercial value of this too. Or maybe we want to look at something that the world is telling us is a big problem and we might want to solve that. And then we want to explore that before we start designing any type of solution with the kinds of benefits that they're looking for. We're always focused on benefits first that people are seeking. And then as we talk to them, we design the features that result in those benefits. And the biggest thing is find really painful things, painful problems to solve. That's when you know you're after something people will pay money for. The other outcome would be that you will become this great unicorn. You'll pursue your entrepreneurial dreams. A third, maybe less, of the people go down that path, and somewhere along the way they will either fail, and then later they might come back and do it again and might succeed. Failure is just part and parcel. A lot of people fail a few times before they actually do it right. So entrepreneurship is the other path. So the one in the middle that I kind of like a lot, you become very marketable to employers. And as you're doing these interviews, you may be asked for a resume. And that's happened a lot during this research. As people are talking to you, they think, "Wow, what a wonderful young person. I think they're fascinating. Do you have a resume?" And then in this province, at least in Manitoba, the power of referral is amazing. They take that resume and they hand it to a friend and they say, "This is somebody of note. I'm doing you a favor. You owe me a favor. We do favors. I scratch your back, you scratch my." And one of the commodities that we exchange is talent. And so people might ask you to tell them more about what you're doing. They might ask you to come in and help them explore some problems that they're having and so on. And so be open to those conversations. But when you go in, it's a professional meeting. You're asking them as the experts to support you as the researcher, as the student, as the seeker of knowledge, as the person who needs advice from them, and somebody has referred you to them. That referral, that's why at the end of every interview, we ask, is there anybody else that I should be talking to? Can you make a warm introduction? Can I mention your name in my subject line that you sent me in this direction? People will open up an email. You'll find out in the next few days when they see somebody they recognize or something they recognize in the subject line that they care about. It opens up, and then that open rate is really important. And then them reaching out to you is the next step. All right, that's all I have for you guys. Take a screenshot of this so that you kind of have a quick bulleted list of what you're doing this afternoon. And you can check these things off as you do them and move the needle slightly again. Every day we're moving the needle and getting closer and closer to what? Becoming these amazing people that fit those three categories I just described. And they are all perfect outcomes, every one of those. You will not just be the rocket scientist, you'll be that person with the gift of gab, and you'll be able to talk to anybody by the time you're done this course. All right, folks, you are released. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow again.
Take care, everybody. Great job today.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye.